Welcome to Chinese novel audiobook. Doomsday Disaster. Start by building a shelter. Chapter 1. Refuge from scratch. Hello, please sign for the express delivery. Suburbs. Outside the shabby farmyard. The courier carried several heavy cardboard boxes on the electric tricycle. Su Wu took the pen, glanced at the cardboard box a few times, confirmed that there was no bump, and lowered his head to sign the express delivery form. Are you going to build a shelter here? I bought so many tools. While Su Wu was checking the express delivery, the courier asked curiously. You also heard of that doomsday rumor? Su Wu raised his eyebrows, quite surprised. That's of course, our work group is discussing this today. There are a lot of things on the market now that are expensive and difficult to buy. Something must have happened, which caused the state to secretly control it. Maybe it's true that the doomsday is coming soon. A hint of worry flashed between the courier's words. The end of the world is not a game of joking. When ordinary people meet, they can't fight. It makes some sense. Su Wu nodded seriously. But there is no need to worry. If something really happens, the country will definitely provide us with the bottom line so that we will not be unable to survive. Hope that's the case. The courier sighed, his expression still not very good. The country may take action, but the quality of life will be unsure. The Earth in parallel world. All continents belong to a unified federal government. Technology is a big lead compared to Su Wu's world before traveling through time. Even controllable nuclear fusion shows signs of breakthrough. It can be said that it has arrived on the eve of the interstellar voyage and colonial era. However, all the good prospects are good. No matter how far the end of the world is coming. Whether human civilization still has a future needs to be put into a big question. Carry the express boxes into the yard one by one. Su Wu carefully locked the door and looked around. He is in a large yard. In addition to the corner to the east, there is an old two-story house. Other places are filled with cement, sand, corner iron, steel bars, cans, plastic bottles, as well as various used household appliances and tires. When an unknown outsider comes in, he will definitely think that this is a waste item recycling bin. Commonly known as rag picking. But in fact, it's almost the same. Most of the things in the yard are the results of Su Wu's wholesale from the waste item recycling stations in the city in the past half-month. Su Wu spent 6 million in cash for this. Don't think it's expensive. Not to mention other things, just look at the most valuable of more than 3,000 tons of various scrap metals. No matter how bad it is, the price of a pound of iron is worth 607 cents. The most expensive steel bars are even more than £1 per pound. Can buy it for 6 million. It was already considered that Su Wu was very careful in his calculations and worked hard for many days. A house. I got these things. Su Wu felt a sigh in his heart. It was not a pity or a melancholy. He came over more than half a month ago. Living in a residential building in a coastal first-tier city. That is the only property left to him by the original parents of this world. At the same time, there is also a 2 million yuan compensation for parents' death from their car accident. If there is no end of the world. With the house and these compensations, Su Wu can even live a carefree life that he could only imagine in his dreams without having to work for the rest of his life. But everything has no if. After the apocalyptic survival system that he traveled through with him was activated. When Su Wu learned that the end of the world was coming, he immediately sold his house where he had settled. With the money and compensation I received, I hurried to an ordinary city with a high terrain in the central mainland. Zhonghe City. I rented the farmyard where he is now in the suburbs. We plan to build a shelter on site to deal with the upcoming disaster of the doomsday. It's still too late. If I could travel through time earlier. Maybe I can even get a piece of abandoned underground air raid shelter. That's much better than it is now. Su Wu was not very satisfied with this courtyard. The ideal address for building a shelter is an underground air raid shelter or a cave in the mountains. Not only is there a large space, it can also save most of the construction costs. But unfortunately, when Su Wu tried to search for relevant information, these places that were once unwilling, either it has been recruited by the government or sold it early. So Su Wu kept searching online for more than 10 hours, but couldn't find any suitable place. When it is a last resort, I can only settle for the second best and choose the current yard. Create refuges from scratch. The advantage is not enough, but at least the surrounding environment is safe and the prices are low. It is much better than the first-tier cities by the sea. A phone call sounded. Su Wu took out his cell phone from his pocket and connected. Boss Su, your basement construction application has been approved. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. I've passed the license document to you on WeChat. The intermediary's excited voice came from the phone. Thanks. I'll confirm it later and I'll call you the final payment. Su Wu said in a calm voice. The order is still there now. Even in remote suburbs. If you want to dig the land and build an underground shelter, it is not something you can dig by just digging. You must first obtain the approval of the government. In order to be able to pass the application. In addition to signing the 20-year lease contract for the farmyard, he also paid a full 50,000 yuan to find an agent to help. Fortunately, everything went well and it didn't take too long. It's just right now. The boss is happy. Hang up the phone. Su Wu continued to carry the several express boxes under his feet into the room. In the first-floor living room, on the cleaned solid wood table, Su Wu carefully dismantled one of the cartons. He carefully took out a pair of robotic arms about 70 centimeters long wrapped in layers of plastic foam. The materials are very solid and the joints are very flexible. After a little check, Su Wu was quite satisfied. It is worthy of being a high-end product with a unit price of up to 16,000 yuan. All workmanship is above the level line. But while being satisfied, Su Wu still couldn't help feeling a little sad. Although the quality of this kind of robotic arm is undeniable, it can be bought for up to 8,000 yuan a month ago. Not only does the price double now, but it is still purchasing restrictions. After Su Wu bought the sets he could never buy them again. But now is not the time to consider these issues. Focus a little bit. Su Wu aimed his eyes at a robotic arm on the table. A light curtain that only he could see popped up in his field of view. Open black lens bracket equivalent mechanical arm. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket fitness, 90%. Close black lens bracket. Evaluation. This is a qualified robotic arm that can be used for some simple production operations. Close black lens bracket. Upgrade direction. Industrial robot arm I universal skillful hand 1 survival point industrial robot arm 2 high frequency oscillation cutting knife 1 survival point industrial robot arm 3 high energy smelting laser emitter 2 survival points. The sight stays on the third option. Su Wu had a slight thought and made a choice. Select the upgrade direction, industrial robotic arm 3 high energy smelting laser emitter. A glimmer of light flashed on the robotic arm. The robotic arm instantly renovated and became even more shiny and thicker. At the same time, at the end of it, the 5 fingers originally imitated by human form disappeared, replaced by a transparent crystal the size of a fist. Su Wu knew that transparent crystal. It should be the biggest change brought about by this upgrade, the high-energy smelting laser emitter. Look at the system panel. Deducting this upgrade consumption, there are still 14 points left to be available. So there was no hesitation. Another express carton was opened, and the 2 new robotic arms were upgraded in the other 2 directions. Now the whole set of robotic arms is complete, which should meet the needs of manufacturing universal engineering robots. The fingertips slashed across the hard shell of the robotic arm, experiencing the cool texture transmitted by the metal. An uncontrollable excitement and expectation surged in Su Wu's heart. There are also bursts of dreamy unreality. I worked hard for half a month. Finally, I was able to truly obtain the first high-tech tool to surpass the current era. From this moment on, his fate will completely become different from the ordinary people on this planet. Have the ability to transport a refuge from imagination to reality bit by bit. Chapter 2 The Scarce Materials. After a brief inspection, Su Wu carefully installed the 3 upgraded robot arms on a robot leaning against the corner of the wall. That robot. There is no head, only the torso and legs that are simply pieced together with metal brackets and steel plates. Say it's a robot. In fact, it is a model with rough workmanship. After installing 3 heavy robotic arms, it even trembled slightly. It looks like it only takes a slight poke with your finger to put it down. Just use it. I found that the robot did not fall apart. Su Wu is actually quite satisfied. After all, in order to save money, I can no longer buy anything similar on the market. This model was something he used to rub it out bit by bit a few days ago. There is no need to expect anything in terms of quality. Open black lens bracket fake short engineering robots. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket fitness, 40%. Close black lens bracket. Evaluation. This is an immovable simulation model. Although it has a qualified robotic arm, it still cannot undertake any engineering work. Close black lens bracket. Upgrade direction. General light engineering robot, 15 survival points. Close black lens bracket. The fit is 40%, which is still quite far from passing the exam based on the percentage. But everything needs to be compared. Before installing the 3 upgraded robotic arms, the fit was only 1%, a 40-fold difference. The survival points required for upgrading have reached an unattainable triple-digit number. Now it has been reduced to a level where you only need 15 survival points to upgrade. It's already extremely amazing. It also fully demonstrates that Suwu first upgraded 3 robotic arms and gave priority to building high fit. Only. The 15 survival point is still a bit high for Suwu. With a little concentration, Suwu focused his attention on the line of fit. More detailed information pops up immediately on the panel. Shows 100 kilograms of material missing. This is a small thing. With a budget of millions and a half month of trash, Suwu is most in short supply of various common raw materials. I went out and picked and selected in the yard for a while. Suwu dragged a cart of scrap steel bars and wires, plus a few electronic boards, and piled them next to the robot. Looking at it again this time, the degree of fit has increased to 55%. The survival points required for upgrading are reduced by 3 points. Suwu knew that this was the limit he could save at the moment. So I no longer hesitated and officially upgraded the robot. After the light, all the materials and models piled on the ground disappeared. Instead, it is an engineering robot that is about 2 meters tall, covered with silver white metal, has 3 precision robotic arms, and is full of technological beauty. Get local materials and make AM3 model screw. Suwu tried to issue an order. The engineering robot in front of him responded with a dripping sound. Use a high-frequency oscillation cutting knife on the robotic arm to cut a small piece of the abandoned corner iron that fell not far away. Then, with a skillful skill in picking up the cut scrap iron, using magnetic force to suspend it in the air, and then using the high-energy smelting laser emitter on another robotic arm to emit a dark red beam to shine it on it, and carve it out. Carefully crafted. After more than 10 seconds, a standard screw gradually formed. Looking at the engineering robot's smooth operation, Suwu nodded slightly. Quite satisfied. If efficiency and material quality are not considered. With the performance of this engineering robot, most industrial parts can be basically manufactured and welding and assembly work can be completed. It is equivalent to having both machine tools and assembly workshop functions. I will be liberated in the future. I won't have to do it myself anymore. Recalling the experience of rubbing the robot model with his hands a few days ago, Suwu still feels a little pain in his fingers until now. For someone who is not good at handcraft, even assembling a simple robot model is a very difficult project. Suwu really doesn't want to experience the same thing again. The engineering robot's functions were tested to meet expectations. Suwu excitedly opened his laptop and called out a design drawing of the drilling machine and geothermal generator that had been prepared long ago. This is the equipment he needs to make next. Really start construction of a refuge. The first prerequisite required is to have sufficient and stable electricity. In this regard, it is not very reliable to count on the outside world. As early as half a month ago, the federal government imposed strict restrictions on civil and commercial electricity. The supply of civil electricity is limited, and the monthly share of each household is not enough for an air conditioner to be open. Although commercial electricity is not limited, the electricity price has increased tenfold. There are also extremely high requirements for use qualifications. With Suwu's current conditions, it is basically impossible to successfully apply. And if you generate electricity by yourself, no mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. The lowest cost is the diesel engine. But diesel and gasoline are also controlled items now. Private cannot be purchased separately. Even if you drive over and refuel, the same car and the same driver's license will only be able to fill up twice a month. With such a little weight, it is even difficult to ensure normal travel. Not to mention it for power generation. Wind and hydraulic power, as well as solar energy, either have huge investment or limited power generation. And in the end of the world, they are not very stable. After all the calculations, Suwu discovered that in the end, there was only a geothermal generator, which was most in line with the requirements. But the same sentence. Material control is now. For relatively high-end equipment like geothermal generators, you can't even think of buying it even if you have money. You can buy a drilling machine. But the price has soared hundreds of times higher than usual. Adding up all the money left in Suwu's hands is not enough for a fraction. The only feasible way. Only make it yourself. This is also the reason why Suwu has been struggling for so long and has not started construction until now. There is no engineering robot that can replace machine tools and processing equipment, everything is just illusion. Transfer the design drawings to the engineering robot. Send it to work in the yard. Suwu adjusted a comfortable position and leaned on the back of the chair. Looking at the laptop screen, transmitted by the engineering robot, who was rushing to the destination. The progress bar of cutting the material, an unspeakable feeling of comfort arose in his heart. And light. Since I learned from the apocalypse survival system half a month ago that I will face the end of the day soon. God knows how he has come to this point step by step. While feeling anxious, I kept screening for suitable shelter addresses. Collect materials to build shelters to build relationships. Every minute and every second passes incredibly torment. I was afraid that I would waste too much time because I made a mistake in a certain link and ended up failing. And now, this sense of urgency finally disappeared with the emergence of the first fully automatic engineering robot. The professional ability and efficiency of engineering robots are not comparable to that of him, an ordinary person. Even when sleeping late at night, robots can also work stably without sleeping. Don't worry about any accidents in the middle. Chapter 3 Light up half of the town's electricity. There are enough materials and robot helpers. It's like entering a fast lane. The shelter will definitely be built smoothly. What a surprise is going to happen, that's no longer my problem. Get out of busyness and anxiety. Suwu has free time to think about the future. He didn't know much about the specific news about the end of the world. It is just that from the apocalyptic survival system, it is vague to know that it is related to extreme climates. It may be high temperature or extreme cold. It may also be viral radiation, or earthquake flooding. But no matter what kind of disaster it is, it focuses on extinction of surface creatures all over the world. The consequence of contempt is that it turns into ashes under natural disasters. As for the time when the end of the world comes, Suwu only knew that it was within half a year. Specifically, it is within 6 months, within 1 month, or even within 1 or 2 weeks. Only guessing. This uncertain time once put great pressure on Suwu. So Suwu doesn't need to work in person now. Otherwise, maybe we haven't waited for the end of the world to come. His body collapsed in anxiety first. The country should have already known some news about the end of the world. Maybe it's clearer than me. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such strict material control. Even if you buy more sugar and rice, you have to sign a guarantee letter. Lenovo first came, online shopping failed and could only buy daily necessities in supermarkets and grain and oil stores to store. Unexpectedly. Just because I bought more than 40 kilograms of sugar at one time and 10 bags of rice. The security administrator came to him in person. Suwu's face couldn't help but turn a little black. This is simply not a way for ordinary people to live. Even if you get the news in advance, you want to stockpile supplies and take refuge. Ordinary people don't think about how much they can get. It doesn't matter if the rice is 500 kilograms of 10 bags are enough to eat for a long time. When the shelter is built into soilless cultivation, there is no shortage of farms. Sugar is a little troublesome. That thing is very useful in the end times. I still have to find a way to get a few more batches. Suwu thought that he was already doing this. Although you need to register an ID card to buy sugar, most people don't use much. It's not a big problem to hire a few more people, and after making a second-hand deal, it's not a big deal to get a few hundred kilograms. Moreover, there are more than white sugar things with high sugar content. Scan some unsold candies, no one will care. In addition to sugar, salt, vitamin tablets, various commonly used chemicals for curing diseases, tobacco, alcohol and seasonings, etc., are also hard currency with high value in the future. These regulations are relatively loose, but the prices are not cheap. Due to the funds in hand, the amount of money that can be purchased is also limited. However, it is more than enough to just meet your own needs and to have a minimum foreign transaction. After considering his own shelter, Suwu couldn't help but sigh. The official controls so much material. I hope their shelter is well prepared. Or otherwise, I don't know how many people will die at that time. He is not a kind-hearted person. But things hurt their kind. If you really want the future, he will be the only one left in the whole world. That wouldn't be a good thing either. Humans are all social animals after all. The importance of spiritual food is not much lower than that of reality. The night gradually descends. A farmyard located in a deserted suburb. Except for the noise created by the construction of engineering robots, everything is as calm as before. When the time arrives late at night, a series of brand new information was quietly refreshed on Suwu's system panel. Today's survival point settlement. Close black lens bracket. Survival for 1 day successfully, survival point +1. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket successfully manufactured a general light engineering robot, with a slight increase in survivability. Survival point +2. Close black lens bracket. Get the first fully automatic tool and move from the manual era to the mechanical processing era. The chance of surviving the end of the world has been greatly increased. Survival point +75. Close black lens bracket. Current remaining survival points, 78 points. Close black lens bracket. 75 o'clock. So many rewards. Suwu's eyes twitched, and he was a little puzzled for a moment if he had read it wrong. Although I have vaguely guessed that I might receive a generous bonus through my previous research on the rules of the Apocalypse system. But giving 75 points at one time was beyond his expectations. You know, before that, he will only get a guaranteed income of a little survival point every day. It seems that I underestimated the importance of engineering robots. After being surprised, Suwu couldn't help but feel grateful that he chose to prioritize the construction of engineering robots. With this huge amount of unexpected money, the construction progress of the shelter will undoubtedly be further accelerated. A bright future is within reach. No words all night. The next day at noon. After more than 20 hours of work, a small drilling machine and a geothermal generator were born in the hands of engineering robots. Suwu stepped forward to check. It is found that from the appearance, they are almost exactly the same as the styles on the design drawings. It's neat and it's like getting off the assembly line. Open black lens bracket incomplete drilling machine. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket fitness, 85%. Close black lens bracket. Evaluation. The drilling machine that lacks some core parts is unable to operate normally. Close black lens bracket. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Upgrade direction. 1 kilometer level 3 survival points, 5 kilometers level 20 survival points, and 10 kilometers level 60 survival points. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket unfinished geothermal generator. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket fitness, 75%. Close black lens bracket. Evaluation. Semi-finished generators lacking a large number of important components within, and there is little difference between them and the model. Close black lens bracket. Upgrade direction. 300 kW per hour of small geothermal generator 13 survival points. Close black lens bracket. The two equipment are either incomplete or incomplete. None of them can be used normally. This is not surprising, because it is the result of Suwu's active choice. Although engineering robots can theoretically create most parts, the time it can be consumed is not necessarily guaranteed. The more precise the part, the longer it takes. If you have to pursue perfection. Without 10 days and half a month, it is basically impossible to build a complete drilling machine and a geothermal generator. And when that time comes, maybe the end of the world will come. It's better to create only one semi-finished product like now. The rest will be filled directly with the survival point. This practice It not only saves time, but also greatly reduces the expenses of survival points. It can be called the king of cost-effectiveness. Searched for relevant information. Su Wu hesitated for a while, gritted his teeth and chose to upgrade the 10-kilometer drilling machine. It was not a luxury, but he had no choice. The central region of mainland China where Zhonghe City is located lacks volcanoes and hot springs, and is not a geothermal resource belt in the traditional sense. To truly run a geothermal generator, the pipeline must be paved deep into the ground. Such a huge project is far beyond ordinary drilling machines to undertake. Hopefully enough. Seeing the large amount of survival points spilling out, Su Wu's heartache expression couldn't help but collapse. But he knew in his heart that this step would be taken sooner or later. Electricity is the foundation of construction and survival. Without electricity, everything will eventually become a mirror. The upgraded 10-kilometer level extreme drilling machine is equivalent to the size of a bus in a contracted state. The expanded state can cover almost half of the football field. It belongs to a real behemoth. Fortunately, it is extremely automated and even has rollers and a certain amount of power. Su Wu successfully activated it without spending much energy. But because of no similar work experience. After entering construction state, Su Wu's operations seemed a little busy and bumpy. I went to the evening of the next day. In addition to the intermediate rest time, it took more than 20 hours to barely lay the pipes to a depth of more than 9,000 meters underground. Look at the data sent back from the end probe. This position is enough to keep the geothermal generator running normally. There is no limit to pursuing 10 kilometers. Su Wu stopped just now, and decided to finish the work very decisively, and instead started installing a geothermal generator. Expend 13 survival points to upgrade geothermal generators. Various performances are better than the data on the design drawings. It has basically reached the top level in the world at present, and the interface is also very humane. This made Su Wu very easy to install. 2 hours later. A row of green indicator lights on the geothermal generator. Su Wu's own generator officially started to operate. Good. The power generation power reaches the rated value and can produce 300 kilowatt-hours in 1 hour. For a long time in the future, you won't have to worry about electricity. Looking at the real-time power generation power displayed on the small display screen of the geothermal generator. Su Wu was wiped out by the fatigue caused by long-term concentration and his mood became extremely comfortable. What is the concept of 300 kilowatt-hours per hour? That is equivalent to the power generation of a small hydropower station with an investment of about 20 million yuan. It is enough to meet the consumption of 10,000 ordinary household electric lights at the same time, and can light up half a town at night. Having it is like having an infinite future. Chapter 4: The Turbulence in Calm Daily Life. This time. A drop of rain fell from the sky to Su Wu's face, bringing him a wisp of cold chill. Su Wu raised his head, looked at the sky that had become dim before he knew it, and his eyebrows gently locked up. He found himself seemingly overlooking certain issues. We have to find a way to build a rain shed for the generator first. There is also a greenhouse where cement bags are placed. We have to find a way to increase the bottom and prepare for drainage. The geothermal generator itself has certain waterproof functions. However, the chance of failure in heavy rain is somewhat higher than that in normal conditions. It is necessary to build a rain shed for it. Not to mention cement. This task is quite simple for Su Wu now. Go on one order. The engineering robot began to select materials in the scrap iron pile. Using its sharp cutting knife and a laser emitter that can melt gold and iron, we will build the prototype of the rain protection canopy bit by bit. Late at night, the clouds that had been accumulated for a long time finally began to completely pour down the heavy rain. Su Wu hid in the bedroom on the second floor, looking through the window toward the yard. The lights in the temporary awning are now transparent. The geothermal generator operates stably. A row of dark green indicator lights representing abundant electricity makes people feel extremely at ease when looking at it. Next to the generator, the engineering robot is still working endlessly. According to Su Wu's plan, it will continue to build a mini excavator and a mini transport vehicle and form a simple construction team. Used to dig up underground space in place enough to accommodate a small shelter. The progress is a little faster than expected. Let's take a look after it's finished. If there are not many survival points required for upgrading, you may consider selling a few units in the future. Looking at the tracks and chassis that have taken shape in the hands of the engineering robot, Suwu pondered the materials and production time and thought it was acceptable. My mind couldn't help but become active. Not his money-loving. But the profits here are really huge. A mini excavator. According to the normal price in the past, it was about 30,000 yuan. And when Suwu crossed over and wanted to try to buy one, the price soared 50 times. And there is still priceless, and if you really want to get it, you will have to be at least 2 million yuan. Such a huge price difference. Anyone who can sell 2 units can increase Suwu's current material reserve several times. He became a rich man in the end of the world. Of course, for now, the sale is just an idea. The shadow of Doomsday may come at any time. The shelter is the foundation of Suwu's survival. All transactions must be tried without affecting the progress of the shelter construction. Suwu still knew very clearly which one is more important here. Watch the work of the engineering robot for a while. I found that I had nothing to help. Suwu withdrew his gaze, turned on his laptop, and started to watch the news. Mainstream media on the internet. Still, as usual, some trivial matters were reported. However, some self-media have more or less mentioned some issues that market controls have become more severe in recent days. However, the prices of ordinary food, rice, oil and salt have not changed much. It has not affected daily life. Ordinary people don't have much feelings about this. The related playback volume is generally not high. It is suspected that all toy factories in Dongzhou have been suspended from production and work, and workers in the factory were recruited on the spot by the Dongzhou government to join the construction team. A piece of news caught Suwu's attention. He tried to click to check it out, but found that the original site of the news had expired. It's the same again. Suwu was a little helpless. The federal government in this world has more strict control over the internet. Many things are as long as the government does not want to make them public. Even if it happens in the neighborhood next door and affects millions of people, don't think of finding any useful clues on the internet. At most, some news of catching up on the wind and shadow can be heard in more private chat groups. But there are too many outrageous rumors in the chat group, and ordinary people cannot tell whether they are true or not. It's almost the same as not knowing. If Suwu hadn't had the end-of-life survival system, he might have been the same as ordinary people now. Living in the cage of false information woven by the internet. I wouldn't realize that the disaster was about to come. The source of the news just now was not found. From the side, it has a certain authenticity. Suwu carefully recalled the title he saw. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. My mood became a little heavier again. The suspension of work in the toy factory seems like a trivial matter. In fact, behind it means that there have been serious problems in the operation of this society. It can no longer support unimportant industries to occupy manpower and limited resources. In other words, at present, it should be almost time to openly announce this step before comprehensive control. So this continues. I'm afraid I can only barter from now on. Thinking of the bad environment in the future, Suwu felt even more stressed. Fortunately, the money he had spent almost the same amount. Although there are not many supplies reserved. But everything that should be prepared is ready, enough for him to use it alone for 3 to 5 years. As for 3 to 5 years later, there are survival points, this magical plug-in that is almost like a creation out of thin air. If the development goes smoothly, at that time, he should have been able to achieve self-sufficiency. Don't worry about materials. Early in the morning. As a new day comes, the system panel begins to settle the harvest of the day. Today's survival point settlement. Close black lens bracket. Survival for 1 day successfully, survival point +1. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket successfully manufactured a geothermal generator, and its survivability increased slightly. Survival point +3. Close black lens bracket. Get the first personal power station and start the industrial era. Survival point +25. Close black lens bracket. Current remaining survival points, 34 points. Close black lens bracket. There are more and more survival points. I saw that after completing the huge project of installing a geothermal generator, there were still more than 30 survival points. Suwu felt abnormal stability and satisfaction for a moment. These survival points. All will be his future survival guarantee. The next day. Morning. Some dazzling sunlight broke through the clouds and shone into the bedroom. Suwu got up and washed up. Go out to check. It was discovered that the engineering robot had completed the construction of the micro-excavator, and by the way, even a small half of the micro-transport truck was built. Focus on the micro-excavator. An upgrade panel pops up immediately. Open black lens bracket miniature excavator lacks power. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket fitness, 90%. Close black lens bracket. Evaluation. In addition to the slight flaw in the power and materials, its craftsmanship is impeccable. Close black lens bracket. Upgrade direction. Micro-excavator diesel version, 2 survival points. Micro-excavator battery version, 5 survival points. Micro-excavator unmanned version, 7 survival points. Close black lens bracket. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 5 Micro-excavator. 3 optional upgrade directions made Suwu's eyes shiny. Needless to say, the diesel version is probably similar to the ordinary micro-excavators sold on the market, but they can't stand it cheap. Only 2 survival points are needed, and used second-hand items worth up to thousands of yuan. It can be exchanged for a brand new micro-excavator with a market price of more than 1 million yuan. If used well, this is a ladder that can allow Suwu to climb the rich. The only shame is that in the context of the upcoming apocalypse, the so-called rich man is not that attractive. No hurry. Now the currency is almost a coupon, so it's useless to ask for too much. If you bargain, the value is there anyway, and you can change it anytime. Suwu restrained his impulse and turned his gaze to the other 2 options. Compared to diesel version, the battery version and the unmanned version are more in line with his current needs. He couldn't get the excess diesel. However, after putting into operation of a geothermal generator, there is no possibility of lack of electricity at all. As for the unmanned version, it is actually a comprehensive feature package. Includes battery power, as well as unmanned driving and automatic construction. Among them, unmanned driving and automatic construction are added. It is also very important for Suwu. After all, Suwu is the only one. At the same time, for cost and confidentiality, workers cannot be hired to dig underground shelters. The appearance of the unmanned version is equivalent to solving his urgent needs. Upgrade unmanned version. Suwu did not hesitate too much. The full 29 points of survival obtained in a day yesterday gave him confidence and a little extravagant at this time. After an instant upgrade, a miniature excavator with no driving position, no longer than 1.5 meters in length, and a sci-fi appearance, appeared in front of Suwu. Suwu checked closely. Discover his laptop, which can be wirelessly linked to the micro-excavator's onboard computer. Then, through the laptop, you can directly issue instructions to the micro-excavator remotely and arrange work tasks. Total weight is 1.5 tons. When operating at full power, 2 kWh/hour is consumed. The car battery capacity is 40 degrees, and the maximum charging time is 2 hours. The data are all pretty good. Compared with the products on the market, it should be considered to have been upgraded for at least half a generation. There was no rush to start the micro-excavator. Suwu first checked its basic data through the tips of the Apocalypse survival system. It was found that both the battery capacity and the charging speed were twice that of the same specifications on the market. This is not a stunning black technology. But the technical level is already enough to be rated as an advanced level, barely worthy of its upgrade cost of 3 times the diesel version. If the social environment is stable. Through the reverse research on this vehicle-mounted battery, you may become a regional rich man. Pity. After fiddling for a while, I satisfied my curiosity. Suwu ran back to the bedroom and connected to a micro-excavator with his laptop. Then the shelter design drawings were brought up from the second-hand trading market. Transfer to the onboard computer for mini-excavators. After more than 10 seconds of data matching, the onboard computer sends a prompt that the match is successful. Then the mini-excavator located in the yard starts to start the engine and excavate the soil on the ground on the spot according to the plan on the design drawing. And at the same time, on Suwu's laptop screen, a virtual underground shelter structure diagram is displayed. The above also includes the outline of the farmyard on the surface, the geological conditions of the underground, the location of the excavator, etc. Even at which stage the project is carried out, the expected remaining excavation time is clearly marked. It is both detailed and clear. This is a very powerful degree of automation. I found that I didn't seem to have any room to intervene. Su-woo had the illusion of playing a game for a moment. He turned his head, passed through the bedroom window, looked down at the mini excavator, and slowly dug a downward ***** on the flat ground in the yard. It took a long time to come back to my senses. Now is not the time to waste time. He got up and walked downstairs to the yard. Su-woo walked around the place where the mini excavator worked. Make a good position. He picked up an electric hammer and smashed it towards the yard wall. The farmyard where he lives is located in the suburbs. The main entrance of the yard is close to the road, and behind it is a deserted rocky beach. It takes up not much space, but it is not small. If you go out from the main entrance, then go around to the rocky beach behind. It takes a long journey. To this end, no mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. Su-woo planned to reopen an exit on the wall near the rocky beach behind, so that the transport trucks can pass through when they dumped soil and rocks in the future. This is a rare place he can help in the process of building a shelter. But the plan was very good. In actual implementation, there was a little deviation. This seemingly simple job is an unusual test of physical strength. When Su-woo was panting, he barely smashed a gap of 2 or 3 meters wide to the courtyard wall. It's already 3 hours later. This is the time. Su-woo was so tired that he almost lost the strength to lift the electric hammer. Never do this again next time. Su-woo felt a little regretful and underestimated the intensity of labor in advance. He leaned against the wall for a while. Wipe the sweat and drink a can of Coke to rehydrate. Then clean up the ground briefly. Return to the yard. The engineering robots in the hospital are almost finished building the micro-transport vehicle. Su-woo simply waited there. As soon as the engineering robot was completed, it took 5 survival points to upgrade it. Upgraded mini transporter. It looks like a large toy. The length of the vehicle is less than 2 meters. Because it's unmanned, there is no cockpit on it, it is just a tracked chassis, plus a truck that can be loaded with up to 2 or 3 cubic earth and stone. Open black lens bracket maximum driving speed, 20 km per hour. Close black lens bracket. Load bearing, 5 tons. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket car battery capacity, 40 degrees. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket maximum continuous operation, 40 hours. Close black lens bracket. As a transport vehicle, its speed is pitifully low, between tools and large toys. However, Su-woo was quite satisfied with this. He specially arranged for engineering robots to make tracked chassis, but he did not pursue speed at all. As long as you can drive smoothly on mud and piles of rocks, you can complete the short-distance transportation of soil and rocks. That's enough. Its load-bearing cap is up to 5 tons. Even if the car bucket is filled with rocks, you can drive normally without any pressure. As for the construction of a shelter alone, this transport vehicle has almost no disadvantages. No hesitation. Su-woo quickly organized the freshly released transport vehicle into the engineering team. Immediately. Accompanied by the rotation of the metal bearings on the mini transporter. It began to slowly drive towards the construction site. In conjunction with the mini excavator, the soil and gravel that had already accumulated in the yard into small hills was transported and dumped to the rocky beach outside the yard. Chapter 6: The gradually forming construction team. The engineering team can start construction normally now. Although there is only one excavator and one transport vehicle. However, the combination of the two can already form a simple cycle. Really promote the continuous operation of mining projects. But just this is not perfect. The soil of this construction shelter chosen by Su-woo is relatively soft. Digging underground space is not difficult. However, the possibility of collapse during construction has also increased a lot. Therefore, the process of strengthening underground space must be carried out simultaneously with excavation. Can't relax at all. I took a look at the dugout by the mini excavator. At this time, because the distance is still short, I can't tell anything. But Suwu knew that if he left it alone, he would let the micro-excavator continue to excavate later. It is very likely that the excavator will be buried in the soil by itself. Back to the bedroom. Suwu turned on the laptop. In one go, we continued to add the task of manufacturing construction robots and small cement mixers. Both manufacturing tasks are not difficult. A few hours passed. After investing another 5 points of survival points to upgrade, a human-shaped construction robot appeared in front of Suwu. Compared with engineering robots, construction robots are extremely cheap. Only 1/3 of the former. Its body shape is more human-like. The ends of the only 2 robotic arms are bionic 5 fingers. Ability to flexibly use various human building tools. It can also be used to carry goods occasionally or act as a bodyguard. He can be regarded as a multi-purpose standard worker. The emergence of construction robots has truly made up for the last shortcomings of the engineering team. Free Suwu from labor completely. At least like before. The work of opening an exit on the courtyard wall no longer needs Suwu to do it himself. Just give the construction robot a command and it can be completed automatically. Do reinforcement channels. Suwu assigned tasks to the construction robot. At this time, after nearly a day of excavation work, the mini excavator has dug a decent entrance to the passage in the yard. It just needs to be reinforced. This temporary reinforcement. It is best to use wood. Cheap and fast. However, since Suwu could not buy those things for a while, he could only use steel bar angle iron instead. This practice is secondary to waste. The key is that engineering robots also need to take some time to help cut and weld some qualified boards. This indirectly affects other manufacturing tasks of engineering robots. What a pity, it would be great if I could go to the mountain to cut some trees. The suburbs of the city where Suwu is located are not short of barren mountains and ridges. But now the social order has not collapsed. Even though we know that the end of the world is coming, the possibility of those forests surviving is extremely small. It is impossible to cut down wantonly. I felt sorry for a while. Suwu quickly calmed down. There is no need to be too greedy. His situation is already very good now. There is an ultra-efficient construction team that can work 24 hours a day, and also its own territory that can be used to build shelters. It's a big lead over most people. Those ordinary people who live in the city and don't know that the end of the world is really miserable. At that time, they can only rely on official shelter to have enough space for accommodation. And even if you are lucky enough to get in, you can imagine how good your life is. Evening. The yard is brightly lit. 2 robots and 2 engineering vehicles kept digging and strengthening the passage leading to the underground. It brings a very busy scene. To avoid disturbing construction, Suwu hid back to the bedroom on the 2nd floor early. While using the control software on the laptop, the construction progress is remotely monitored. While playing games bored, I went online to browse the forums and read the news. The temperature rises in Antarctica, breaking through the historical extreme. Millions of cubic kilometers of glaciers may melt, and more than 100 coastal cities may be submerged. The strongest typhoon in history is about to land on the coast of Dongzhou. The City of Dawn will start at 8 p.m. tonight, and the city will be suspended for production and work. Be prepared to welcome the typhoon. Several disaster information entered Suwu's vision. Similar news has been around every year. Generally, as long as you are not at the first scene of the disaster. Most people will not have any special feelings about this. It will only be regarded as ordinary environmental publicity and weather forecast. But just be careful. You will find that these news today are somewhat subtle, different from the past. Breakthrough, the strongest, and other words with strong ominous and suggestive appearances frequently as if they don't have money. The signs of doomsday are becoming more and more obvious. Will the first wave of doomsday climate disasters be high temperatures? No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Suwu clicked on the news and watched the video of a large number of glaciers falling into the sea in Antarctica. My heart was slightly awe-inspiring. He deliberately chose to build a shelter in the central part of the mainland. The main reason is to prevent possible tsunamis and sea level rises. As for stable geology, cheap prices, etc., it is second. It seems now. This decision is not wrong at all. At least he is likely to be the first seen where the doomsday is coming. have more time to prepare. It's a pity that those people from coastal cities don't know how many people will survive in the end. Another news came out. Su Wu looked at a picture of a city where waves jumped out on the embankment, and children were playing and fighting on the embankment. I faintly smelled the breath of death. But he can't do anything about it. If it weren't for the reminder of the apocalyptic survival system, he would have been an ordinary member living in a coastal city. After watching the news, Su Wu opened the communication software again. A few days ago, in order to facilitate the planning of the shelter, he specially joined a large chat group established by several related enthusiasts. I learned a lot from it. At this time, one of the large groups of discussions caught his attention. In that group, there was a netizen named Chen Xin. It seems to be very scared of the news that Antarctic melts. Want to transfer to an inland city. However, most of the responses received were ridicule and dissuasion. Although most of the group are doomsday lovers. But in reality, few people really connect the doomsday with reality. In order to make a guess that is far away and not sure whether it is true or not, I made a big move to transfer and move. In their opinion, it is really too worrying. It is recommended to see how many regulated goods are already on the market now. It's actually very wise to leave the coast as soon as possible. Su Wu thought about it and replied to Chen Xin's words in the group. Then he didn't care about the many oppositions that were refreshed later, so he closed the group chat and focused on playing games. It's just a matter of 2 sentences. If a life can be saved, Su Wu would not be stingy with this little effort. But if the other party is too stupid, he will eventually follow the crowd. He wouldn't feel sorry, either. There is still a question mark whether human civilization can survive in the doomsday. A foolish person, just die if he dies. Chapter 7 Collection Phone. Evening. Su Wu, who was tired of playing games, planned to get up and make a sumptuous meal to work himself. Before turning off the laptop, his gaze was casually drawn. I saw the netizen named Chen Xin and chatted about thanks for it privately. Obviously, the other party has made a decision because of his reminder. With a slight smile, Su Wu's mood became quite good. The following days, the process of excavating the underground shelter entered the acceleration stage after Su Wu added a cement mixing and irrigation machine to the engineering team. The entrance passage 10 meters deep underground is completed completely. The first floor of the underground space of the refuge has also been dug out. Follow the plan. The full version of the shelter will be a standard length cube with a length of 30 meters, a width of 20 meters and a height of 6 meters. The ceiling and the outermost fence should be poured with concrete and steel bars into a shell with a thickness of 1 meter. Because the floor will connect to the second floor below, it belongs to the interior part. The protection requirements are not high. Only use 30 centimeters thickness. It doesn't seem to be much space. But you have to know that Su Wu sold his house in a coastal city worth 6 million yuan. The indoor area is only 100 square meters, and the height is less than 3 meters. One shelter on one floor is almost the sum of the area of 6 houses. Including the height gap, the actual space is more than 10 times that of the latter. Not to mention living alone, even if you live in a dozen people, it is more than enough. It doesn't feel narrow at all. But, as the project progresses, some troubles caused by insufficient preparation will also follow. I don't know if I don't build it. I really started working and discovered that a standard refuge is like a gold-swacking beast. It is completely different from the self-built houses in rural areas. May 15th afternoon. Su Wu looked through his laptop and watched the surveillance bags of cement and was sent to the mixer to stir. I can't help but have some headaches. Rely on survival points to cheat. Just like before making robot models. When he was building the shelter shell, he could already save as much as possible. The main body of the shell is mostly filled with construction waste such as scrap steel and almost no-cost broken cement blocks. Only a little cement was pasted on the outermost surface layer for temporary reinforcement. But even so, the cement and sand consumed were still far beyond expectations. According to the current consumption rate, it is estimated that before the first floor of the shelter is fully completed, it will be embarrassing that there is no material available. Shaw is okay. If cement is available, it is no longer possible to buy it from regular merchants. We have to think of a way. As a man who grew up on the coast, Su Wu has no acquaintances or relationships in Zhonghe City. But this does not mean that he has no choice. Open the second-hand trading market online. Suwu directly searched for keywords such as cement building materials. It took some effort to filter out some fake sellers who sold dog meat with sheep's head. In the end, he really found a merchant that could provide the supply. 300 yuan per bag of cement. No delivery and shipping. Although I have made some psychological preparations in advance. After receiving the offer, Suwu was still shocked. The price has increased by almost 15 times, and it is almost as good as the robbery. What's even more frustrating is that the seller's location is more than 400 kilometers away. If he wants to transport it, he has to find a way himself. Don't think it's expensive. It's all in this business, you should know. Cement has now become a national controlled material. Most of the inventory is collected by the top. The newly produced ones are even one bag taken away after leaving the factory. I am still secretly hiding stock items, and you don't want more. The seller responded to a lot of content. The attitude looks okay, but in fact it looks like you love to buy but not. I refuse to give up at all the discount. All right. You have a total of 1,000 bags of 50 tons of cement, right? I want them all. Let me find someone to pick up the goods later. Suwu rubbed his forehead. After thinking about it, I simply wrapped all the seller's cement. The more money comes, the less valuable it is. Suwu simply took this opportunity to completely clear out the money that was already left in his hand. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. What do you need to buy later? At worst, he bargains with an excavator. Negotiate a deal. Suwu is in the seller's location again. I found 2 large trucks to help pick up the goods. The shipping fee is a little more expensive than finding an acquaintance. But Suwu was too lazy to care about it if he could save a lot of time. I hope there will be no problems on the way. Suwu was somewhat worried about picking up goods from other places, which were more than 400 kilometers away. But he had no other way except praying. May 16th. The sky was gloomy and the heavy rain poured down without warning. The 2 trucks carrying cement were naturally affected. Arrival time becomes far away. Suwu hid in the bedroom on the 2nd floor. Breathing at the faint water vapor floating in from the window. I clicked on the map anxiously and calculated the remaining distance of the truck over and over again. Hope they can arrive early. As a result, I couldn't wait for the driver's call, but instead received a call from the official. My cement needs to be collected. Is this your mandatory requirement? Suwu's mood sank slightly. I didn't expect that I finally bought cement privately through a second-hand transaction. He can actually be targeted by the official. Not a mandatory requirement. It's just an emergency project under construction in our city, and there is still a lot of cement. So if you can, I hope you can support us. On the other end of the phone, the male voice who spoke politely on behalf of the official. There is no sense of arrogance or oppression of others with power. I'm sorry, this batch of cement is also very important to me. I can't let it go. Suwu sighed and refused very directly. We are not levying it for free. After the project is completed, you will be given corresponding contribution points. Please believe you will never regret it in the future. The voices on the other side were neither anxious nor slow, and they did not become irritable because of Suwu's rejection. It was obvious that they had great sincerity. He told him directly that he would be able to provide him with better treatment in the official shelter in the future. I know, it's just that my shelter is missing this batch of cement. There is really no way to give in. Suwu shook his head and clarified the purpose of this batch of cement very clearly. Understood. I wish you a good start. The male voice representing the official was slightly silent for a while and stopped persuading him. Take the initiative to hang up the phone. Suwu turned off the screen and played with his phone. An inexplicable feeling also surged in my heart. He might seem selfish when he does this. But he is just an ordinary person. It can't change much. All you can do is to make your life better. Chapter 8 Charging Stations and Artificial Intelligence. Raise your head. Open on the laptop. The construction site outside the window is still displayed in real time. The majestic rainstorm did not stop the engineering team from operating. Excavation, reinforcement, transportation, everything is going on in an orderly manner. Slowly carve out the outline of the underground shelter bit by bit. After watching for a while, a new message popped up on the screen. Engineering robots are completed to manufacture large battery packs. Suwoo stood up. I came to the first floor and took out my umbrella and walked into the heavy rain. In the yard, the strong wind mixed in the heavy rain, with a hint of chill, poured into Suwoo's collar. Suwoo shrank his neck slightly, facing the resistance brought by the storm. Slowly move into the temporary shed. After finding the battery that had just been completed, Suwoo reached out and held it down, silently thinking about upgrading. After a white light, the size of a suitcase and the appearance of silver-white metal square appears in place. Open black lens bracket high energy battery pack. Close black lens bracket. Maximum stored power, 10,000 kilowatt-hours. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket included with wireless charging component. Wireless charging can be provided within a radius of 100 meters. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Note: a simple and removable small charging station. Close black lens bracket. After looking at the system panel, this upgrade only consumed 5 survival points. Less than expected. If you have the chance in the future, you must remove a few more batteries. Try to upgrade more battery packs. This upgrade was not in Suwoo's earliest plan. It belongs to an extra line jump. But its existence is very necessary. A set of high-energy batteries. It is equivalent to adding an insurance policy to the logistics energy supply of the shelter. Even if the geothermal generator fails in the future, it will not immediately affect the operation of the entire shelter. It can also act as a power reservoir. Store the excess power normally produced by the geothermal generator to avoid waste. In terms of profit, the sooner the high-energy battery pack is, the greater the benefits. Connect the high-energy battery pack in the output port of the geothermal generator to let it hang there to charge. Suwoo turned around and returned to the room. I took a shower and changed into clean clothes. Go upstairs to the bedroom. Seeing that the survival points are sufficient, I upgraded the laptop on the desk. He had wanted to do this long ago. It's a pity that upgrading your laptop requires a total of 15 survival points. And there are many items, and their importance ranks ahead of it. As a result, it has been delayed until now, so it has been considered as having to pay enough upgrade fees. A light flashed. The original black laptop has turned into a more sci-fi silver-white. Suwoo tried to turn on the computer. It was discovered that the upgraded laptop computer had a hard disk capacity of 1000 PB, which was exactly 100,000 times the previous one. The computing performance is even more comparable to that of a small supercomputer. Of course, while the performance is improved, the power consumed has become very terrifying. At full load, 100 kilowatt-hours of electricity is required per hour. Relying on the power of the laptop's own battery, it can only last for an hour. In addition to the greatly improved hardware performance, there is also a supporting primary artificial intelligence in the laptop. Be able to perform some simple tasks on his behalf. Suwoo fiddled for a while. Name this primary artificial intelligence Luo Tianyi. Then transfer all the control authority of the engineering team. Suddenly, the connection between the units of the entire engineering team became smoother, and the movements were as clever as if they were given life. The efficiency has been significantly improved. It seems that the so-called automatic operation is also classified into levels. The stronger the computing power, the higher the efficiency. Suwoo was thinking about this unexpected joy. Observe for a while. It was found that the task of commanding the construction of the engineering team did not occupy a high amount of computing power on the laptop. It also continued to add a long-term task to it very simply. Priority is given to textual information, and all public information on the internet is collected and downloaded. This task. It looks simple. In fact, it is due to many human interference on the internet. If Suwoo collects it manually, it will take time and effort. I don't even know where to find a lot of information. But if artificial intelligence is replaced, there will be no problems. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. The only limitation is the download speed of the network itself. Afternoon. The heavy rain gradually stopped. 2 trucks carrying cement finally arrived in front of Suwoo's door. Under the amazing gaze of the 2 truck drivers, they were asked to take charge of unloading the goods. Brother, your high-tech efficiency is higher than that of 3 or 5 workers combined. The driver, who was idle, talked to Su Wu. No way. It's not easy to find someone now. Su Wu shrugged and said helplessly. In fact, you can find someone if you really want to find it, but they are all temporary workers. There is no need to think about efficiency, it is better to use a robot to save time and worry. Speaking of it, we are, too. The people who work diligently are usually hired by the government. It is said that what kind of civil defense project is to be built. The truck driver also sighed. Do you think it's possible that it's almost the end of the world as rumored on the internet? Maybe. Look at the current abnormal market conditions. I can't tell what will happen. Su Wu randomly echoed, neither agreeing nor denying it. Unloading is completed. It's almost evening. After seeing off 2 truck drivers, Su Wu also directed the construction robots to lay tarp cloth for the newly purchased cement. These things may not be easily obtained even if they are bartered in the future. It must be taken care of. May 22nd. After a week of accumulation, Su Wu, who had once again collected enough survival points, added a mini excavator, a mini transport vehicle and a construction robot. Double the construction team. It greatly improves mining efficiency. May 28th. The initial excavation of the first underground space with a total of 600 square meters was completed. Su Wu consumed 1 survival point and finally reinforced the main body of the entire first-level space. Let the construction waste, steel bars and outermost concrete fill the walls truly blend together. The construction engineering team began to gradually withdraw and prepared to continue digging down the second underground floor. The same afternoon. The second floor of the farmyard, bedroom. Su Wu, who had always seemed a little idle, began to plan and design the part of the shelter after the completion. He turned on his laptop and compared the original shelter drawings above, as well as a bunch of reference materials he searched for. I fell into a long state of thinking. This time the choice will determine the starting point of his refuge and the functions he originally had. Chapter 9 Hydroponic Farm. The main body of the entire refuge is located 10 meters underground. It connects the underground layer to the surface through a sloping passage. At the first floor of the basement, near the shelter exit passage, a disinfection room, a garage and a dressing room can be placed to provide services for future shelter access. At the same time, it can also be equipped with a large lifting platform about 20 square meters, enough to carry the vehicle. From the first floor of the underground, to the second floor of the underground, and even deeper underground. On the laptop, Su Wu planned the space allocation inside the shelter bit by bit. And after first identifying several necessary basic functional areas. Facing the first underground floor, there is a full 500 square meters of vast space left. Su Wu thought about it for more than half an hour before finally deciding to divide them into a 200 square meter rice planting area and a 300 square meter vegetable planting area. In the end of material scarcity. In addition to electricity. The most important thing is undoubtedly food. Only by having food and ensuring the most basic survival can we talk about other things. Therefore, establishing a self-sufficient food and vegetable production site is the primary event. The rice and vegetable growing areas built inside the shelter are naturally different from ordinary farmland outside. It is mainly based on soilless cultivation. Replace sunlight with artificial growth lights, providing a suitable growth environment for rice and vegetables. At the same time, in order to make full use of every inch of land inside the shelter, the rice planting area will be divided into 4 layers in the form of shelves. Vegetable planting is divided into 10 layers. The actual planting area was expanded to 800 square meters and 3,000 square meters respectively. More than 1 acre of rice planting area. In an appropriate environment created by artificially, the growth cycle is expected to be reduced to 4 months, and it can produce about 1,600 kilograms of rice. Enough to supply the daily needs of at least 10 people. Su Wu's expected output. Strictly speaking, it is actually quite conservative. Some high-yield hybrid rice can achieve 1.5 times or even twice the expected yield. But this is not necessary. The taste of high-yield hybrid rice is much lower than that of normal rice. In situations where you can, Su Wu hopes to improve his quality of life as much as possible. As for the vegetable planting area of 3,000 square meters and nearly 5 acres of land, Su Wu chose to grow varieties that mainly grow faster: lettuce, cabbage, spinach, cabbage and other varieties. Then combine it with a small amount of tomatoes, cucumbers and other common vegetables. The former focuses on efficiency and output, mainly used for trading with other shelters outside the world. The latter focuses on quality and is specially used to keep Suwu to improve his food himself. The various resources Suwu has reserved can only be said to be barely enough. Just now, the framework of a personal shelter was built. Want to live better and expand the size of the shelter. Continuous foreign trading must be passed. This is also one of the significance of the existence of vegetable growing areas. The main varieties of vegetable grown were identified. Suwu hesitated for a moment. We simply added strawberries, grapes, pineapples and other fruit planting plants. These are also supplied to shelters for daily use. Even considering eating fruits usually may be much more than eating vegetables. The planting area allocated to these fruits is quite vast, with a total of more than 600 square meters. Highlight a luxury and willfulness. That's it for the time being. After making all the plans for the underground floor of the shelter, Suwu stretched. A rare feeling surged in my heart. His own refuge finally started to build something. Although there is only one layer for the time being. But in an emergency, it was enough for him to survive in it for a long time. On the premise that the doomsday is coming. Nothing can make people feel happy and at ease. With planning, the next construction will no longer be a problem. The engineering team first made the frame of the large lifting platform. Then it was upgraded through Suwu using the survival point and officially put into use. Then the construction team was divided into two. Excavators and transport vehicles continued to dig the space on the second floor of the underground. The engineering robot and two construction robots began to be near the lifting platform on the ground floor. Build disinfection rooms, dressing rooms and garages. From time to time in the middle, go to the second floor of the underground to reinforce the newly excavated space. Considering that the second underground floor is close to the rock layer, the simple excavator is inefficient. Relying on the survival points, it is quite abundant. Suwu has specially upgraded a professional gravel car to join the construction team. There are only two soilless cultivation areas left, and construction has not started yet. May 31st. On the last day of May. The first underground floor of the refuge is officially completed. With a full 5 survival points, a set of semi-automatic unmanaged equipment was added to the two planting areas. Suwu named the underground floor the hydroponic farm. Let it start running officially. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. Plant the corresponding rice, vegetables and fruits according to the planned categories. Having said that, it is necessary to mention one thing. Since the problem of growing fruits was not considered in advance, the seeds and seedlings of many fruits were not prepared in advance. You can only go out and buy it on the market temporarily. Fortunately, these things are basically available in seed stores. Suwu didn't spend much effort. So I used some canned food and grain to trade them all. No delay in the production of hydroponic farms. At the same time, it's still on this day. Through the primary artificial intelligence Luo Tianyi, Suwu searched for a bad news from the internet that was not known to the outside world for the time being. Deep in the African Rift Valley, a large tribe lives in the place of residence. At around 9:20 a.m., the ambient temperature broke through the global historical extreme value in a short period of time, reaching an ultra-high temperature of 155 degrees. Thousands of people in the entire tribe all died of dehydration under the extreme high temperature, and no one survived. The end of the world has come. Browse through the federal government rescue team and heading to take pictures. Suwu vaguely realized that it might not be an isolated case, but the real beginning of the apocalypse. For a moment, I felt a tremor involuntarily. There was both tension and a hint of anxiety about the future in my eyes. No matter how well prepared it is, the fragile body of human beings is as small as dust in the face of a disaster that changes the world. June 1st. The disaster spreads faster than expected. This morning, the second extreme high temperature point appears over the Antarctic. Countless glaciers are visible at a speed visible to the naked eye. Rapid melting and evaporating. Above the ocean, hurricanes roar and heavy rains poured. A few hours later, the nearest coastal city to Antarctica. Devoured by the sudden tsunami. There are more than 200,000 people in the entire city, and there is no news. And it is thousands of miles away. The coastal city of Dongzhou. At the same time as this tsunami appeared, a long-lasting alarm was sounded. All TV stations have begun to repeatedly broadcast emergency announcements issued by the federal government. Residents living in these coastal cities and ports are required to immediately evacuate to the inland highlands for refuge. But an evacuation operation involving millions, even tens of millions of people. It is simply impossible to achieve in a short period of time. The 10th hour after the alarm sounded. The first evacuated teams have just left the coastal plains. Advanced towards the inland highlands. More people are still stranded in coastal cities. Race against death. Waiting for the verdict of fate. Chapter 10 The first sign of doomsday. And in reality and on the internet, there is a turbulence. Central East Continent. Suburbs of Zhonghe City. Perhaps the evacuation and resettlement of tens of millions of people has attracted a considerable amount of the official attention. The information that was originally strictly regulated has now spread a lot on the internet. Su Wu even saw several disaster investigation reports from within the federal government. According to the investigation report, it is certain that in the next month to 1.5 months, the global average temperature will rise to more than 60 degrees, and the highest may reach about 100 degrees. The surface will no longer be suitable for ordinary people. There is at least 1 month left. This is not good news, but it is not bad either. At least, knowing a clear deadline is better than knowing nothing about the future. Su Wu thought about it carefully. It was calculated that according to the current construction progress, the second and third floors of the underground should be completed by then, and there is no big problem when moving in. I felt much more at ease in my heart. The construction progress of the shelter was confirmed. Su Wu became a little idle for a moment. The construction of the shelter is under the responsibility of engineering teams and junior artificial intelligence, so he does not need to intervene. The only thing he can do is to contact foreign transactions or inquire about information. At this time, in the Doomsday chat group, it was like an ant nest that exploded, and dozens of new messages could pop up every second. Any online group member can't help but jump out and say a few words. Express your shock at the major incident of the transfer of tens of millions of people along the coast. However, after the initial excitement, the content in the chat group later was not all meaningless. Su Wu saw several local tyrants who were suspected of having a shelter in their hands and were trying to buy some shortage of resources. Certainly. In the current news that the doomsday is coming, it is almost half public. Few people will trade in cash again, and they are basically bartering. There are a lot of excavators around Zhonghe City, including electric picks and hammers. You can trade steel, rubber, and food, and discuss in detail. Slide down the chat record, and a purchase information attracted Su Wu's attention. He is in Zhonghe City and has the ability to manufacture excavators, which meets the conditions for the transaction. As a refuge and one of the main raw materials for manufacturing various mechanical equipment, steel is undoubtedly a strategic resource that he will never think of. With a moving heart, Su Wu found the other party to have a private chat. Will the micro-excavator be collected? After asking, Su Wu sent a few pictures of the micro-excavator, specific parameters, etc. Want 2 tons of initially processed steel, exchange it for a micro-excavator. You need as much as you can. The other person responded quickly, and it was obvious that he was in a very anxious mood. According to the normal market price in the past, the price of a ton of primary processing of steel is about 12,000 yuan. 20 tons are almost the same as 8 micro-excavators. Now it is only used to exchange one, which obviously makes a lot of concessions. But this is normal. After all, steel is just raw materials, and it takes time to digest it, and not everyone can use it. Excavators are currently in short supply and can really be used to expand the living space of refuges. For some forces that get news very late but want to establish a shelter, it's totally worth the huge price to get it. Is there any scrap iron? Su Wu did not rush to agree and continued to ask. For him, there is little difference between scrap iron and preliminarily processed steel. But their prices vary greatly. It's a little bit to save. Yes, but not much. There are only 200 or 300 tons of scrap iron in the warehouse. If you want it, you can change it to one of 100 tons. And you have to find someone to come back to our factory. The load capacity of ordinary trucks is only about 5 tons. It takes at least dozens of trips to run for more than 200 tons. It didn't matter in the past. But every bit of manpower and every portion of oil are extremely precious now. This is not a service that can be given away easily. I will exchange 3 micro-excavators for all your inventory scrap iron. The insufficient part will be converted into primary processing steel for me in proportion. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Suwu thought about it and decided to wrap all the scrap iron into pieces. As for trading items, the micro-excavators in the engineering team naturally cannot move. Nothing can affect the construction progress of the shelter. Moreover, the transaction does not use such a high-end version. The diesel version mini excavator with 2 survival points is enough to meet the conditions. Negotiate a deal. It is agreed that delivery will start tomorrow. Suwu switched back to the console on the laptop. Let the engineering robot temporarily put down the task at hand and start prioritizing the manufacturing of 3 mini excavator models. Then he got up and went downstairs and slipped to the simple garage in the yard. Now even the serious local tyrants on the market who can build their own shelters lack the ability to transport goods. Suwu, who was already short of money, naturally would not want to hire drivers and trucks easily. If you want to solve the transportation problem, you can only find a way to get a truck by yourself and then pick up the goods by yourself. There are no good cars in the garage. There is only 1 used van for gasoline and a used tractor for diesel. After taking a look at the van, Suwu quickly gave up on it. The van has a load capacity of only 1 ton and has a small space, so it is not suitable to transport bulk cargo. In comparison, there is a used tractor with a large truck behind. Instead, it is more durable and can be used to attract more goods. Open black lens bracket farm 2-wheel drive tractor close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket speed, 32 km per hour close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket fuel consumption, 7 liters per hour close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket loading, 3 tons close black lens bracket. Upgradable direction. Integrated truck diesel version, 3 survival points. Integrated truck electric drive version, 5 survival points. Open black lens bracket upgradable sub options. Armor, off-road, speed, battery life, temperature insulation, radiation resistance, purification, electronic information. Close black lens bracket. Perhaps it is a large-scale equipment, or perhaps it is a complete and available product itself. After Suwu focused his attention on the tractor. On the attribute list that pops up in his field of view, there is an additional line of upgradable sub-options that have never been seen before. 1 or more additional attributes specified therein can be selected to add additional functionality to the upgraded tractor. Suwu thought for a while and selected armor among the many sub-options. This choice made him spend 3 extra survival points and invest about 2 tons of steel raw materials. As for the main upgradable direction, it is undoubtedly an electric drive version of an all-in-one truck. Suwu is not short of electricity now, but diesel and gasoline are lacking. If you use the latter, you have to stay in a trap if you can't run a few times, and you have no practical value at all. On the contrary, when using electricity, you can run whatever you want, and the transportation cost is almost 0. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 11 Scrap Iron Trading. Commanding a construction robot, he brought a large pile of scrap iron over. Suwu began to officially upgrade. Soon, with the system panel, the 8-point survival point disappears. Second-hand tractors have evolved in a blast of white light. Evolved second-hand tractor. The body size expanded completely and there was no trace of the tractor. It completely turned into a medium-sized truck with a heavy metal texture. There should be security now. The upgraded medium-sized truck brought Suwu a great sense of security. But just like that, I still feel that something is missing. Passive defense does not exist perfectly. Only by mastering the power of attack can one be invincible. Suwu thought for a moment. Run back to the bedroom. A design drawing of the hand crossbow was called out from the notebook and transmitted to the engineering robot. Let it adjust the task again and give priority to creating hand crossbows and crossbow arrows. This hand crossbow design drawing is a special model downloaded by primary artificial intelligence from a niche website that is not disclosed to the public. Can be sent 3 times. The effective range reaches 50 meters. According to federal law, such design drawings are prohibited knowledge and cannot be sold or disseminated to the outside world, nor can they be carried and used with them. If it were normal times, Suwu naturally did not dare to act with his opponent. But now the news that the end of the world is coming is almost half public. I think law enforcement officers should not have any leisure to check for contraband. As long as you don't make too much noise, it's not a big problem to simply use it to prevent yourself. The next day, take it and make it complete, with a very metallic crossbow and a 30 crossbow arrow. Suwu drove the 3 diesel version mini excavators upgraded on the spot into the carriage of the truck. Then, together with a construction robot, we boarded the cab, left and right. Drive towards the steel plant dozens of kilometers away. The reason why I have to bring a construction robot is mainly used as a porter. A total of 200 or 300 tons of scrap iron. Suwu was exhausted alone and could not complete the work of loading and unloading the goods. It's better to just put it on the construction robot from the beginning. In addition, human-like construction robots can carry heavy objects and naturally have certain force. When you encounter threats, you can play a guest role as a bodyguard temporarily. Greatly improve safety guarantees. Pure electric-powered truck. The manipulation gives people a very smooth feeling, and it is silent when it is started. Suwu quickly entered the city area with lightning all the way. In the city, the situation is a little better than expected. Although after a day of fermentation, the news of the Doomsday spread completely among everyone. Most of the shops on the street have been closed, and most of the pedestrians have been lost. Only trucks have been recruited by the officials, transporting supplies to various official shelters one by one. The atmosphere looked a little depressed and tense. But overall, thanks to the official timely release of the shelter resettlement plan, the order is still controllable. I didn't see anyone making trouble. Suwu's tense nerves relaxed slightly. He mixed in the freight convoy with peace of mind, walked through the city and arrived at the steel plant on the edge of the city on the other side. No surprises occurred during the handover. After delivering 3 mini excavators, Suwu successfully obtained the key to a warehouse with 260 tons of scrap iron and 4 tons of primary processing steel plates. And it is also at this time. Suwu found that he was in a big and small trouble. The medium-sized truck he drove had a maximum load of nearly 10 tons. But because the scrap iron traded to him was all waste materials with irregular shapes. In fact, even if the carriage is full, it can only take about 5 tons at most at a time. This means that transportation efficiency is directly reduced by half. If you want to pull all the steel in the warehouse back, you have to run back and forth at least 50 or 60 times. If we count the time taken in the loading and unloading process, it is very likely that we may not be able to complete the transportation until the end of the world really comes. There is nothing to do. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Suwu could only turn his attention to another upgradable sub-option of the medium-sized truck, electronic information. The so-called electronic information is a comprehensive function. It integrates many functions such as autonomous driving, remote communication, terrain radar scanning, etc. The modification price is 3 survival points. Once the modification is completed, Suwu can use laptops and primary artificial intelligence to allow medium-sized trucks to automatically drive on the road. Then after the medium-sized truck arrives at the steel plant warehouse, it can also be used as a communication transit to remotely direct the loading of the construction robots on the vehicle. Realize automatic operation of the entire process without a man. In order not to go to transportation in person. Without having to worry for too long, Suwu quickly decided to upgrade electronic information for the medium-sized truck. While upgrading, in order to avoid driverless driving causing some trouble on the road, Suwu also specially pasted a layer of one-way filter membrane on the glass in the cab. Cover up the real situation in the cab. Of course, it's a bit incomplete. But the same sentence. The end of the world is coming, and as long as it is not too much, few people have the time to deal with some details. In this way, driverless medium-sized trucks mingled in the busy convoy on the streets. We began to travel day and night between the farmyard and the steel factory in Suwu. Little by little, the scrap iron from the steel factory warehouse was transported to the farmyard. The next few days, in addition to the coastal cities being affected by the tsunami without any surprises and suffered heavy losses, nothing important happened. Suwu stayed in the building of his yard. Watch the news every day, spend time chatting in the forums and groups, and then play games. Life is relaxed and leisurely. If Suwu had not been able to receive some news about the Doomsday from time to time, he would have even felt the illusion of returning to a peaceful era in his previous life. Having said that, one thing to mention is, because of the transaction with the steel mill, Suwu proved his strength. He also became an administrator in the Doomsday chat group. And he was also pulled into a small group called Zhonghe City Doomsday Survival Preparation Group. This small group with only a few more than 20 people, all of which are in power in several cities around Zhonghe City, private or corporate shelters. The original intention of establishment. It is to facilitate local small and medium-sized shelters to trade materials and exchange information. With the help of this special chat group, Suwu gradually learned a lot of news that ordinary people didn't know. Chapter 12 Entering the Scarlet Heat. For example, at this time, in the central cities of major intercontinental cities around the world, the first batch of residents have begun to move into official shelters. The identities of residents are naturally dominated by politicians and scientists. However, the number of rich people is relatively small. It's not that they are not qualified to enter. Instead, most wealthy people prefer to build their own shelter. This also led to the abandoned air raid shelter in the deep mountains. For a long time, it has become one of the main reasons for the hot-selling products on the market. Compared with those rich people, Suwu was not at all unfair to find a place to deal with it in the deep mountains. Several official shelters in Zhonghe City. Now, almost all construction has been completed. They opened up most of the underground parking lots and underground shopping malls in the city, and integrated subway passages. The overall space looks very large, and it is almost forming a small underground city. But, Tisk. Zhonghe City Doomsday Survival Preparation Group. Wang Zhangguo, the director of the steel factory who pulled Suwu into the group, revealed some official updates from Zhonghe City during a chat. Official shelter in the city. The scale is large. However, it must accommodate 3 to 4 million people in the city and maintain a certain production capacity. It's spread out to everyone's living space, which is so pitiful. 6 people, or even 10 people, may become the norm. Compared with this, no matter how bad the private shelter is, it is as beautiful as heaven. It's time to be completed. It's already the 9th now. If it's a little late, maybe something big will happen. A group member named Heavy Knight took the speech, with a little worried tone. Mobilized 3 to 4 million people and moved their families from home to underground shelters. It seems simple. In fact, anyone who has done management knows how complicated the situation inside will be. If you delay a little bit, maybe the remaining 20 days may not be enough. Not that many places are related to the upstairs and downstairs. It's too late. At worst, you can throw your belongings away and run faster. You can usually run into the shelter within a few minutes. Another group member named Tiancheng Construction comforted him casually. His words seem reasonable, but in fact they ignore the action of the elderly, the weak, the sick and the disabled. Just as he said, he ignored it. If one is not done well, it may kill tens of thousands of elderly and disabled people who are relatively slow to move. Of course, now it's all in the end of the world. It is normal to have a little idea of survival of the fittest. After all, even in peacetime, rich people may not take the lives of ordinary people seriously. And in the end of the world, the gap between the rich and ordinary people who have private shelters will only become even bigger. By the way, is the official information reliable? It seems that there are at least 20 days to prepare. But the temperature outside is almost 40 degrees. Our whole family was forced to move into the shelter in advance and could only hide inside and control the work of the employees outside. Not everyone cares about the life and death of civilians outside. A suspected rich second generation is operating an account named Mr. Zhuang. He is too lazy to cover up even the cover-up and complains in the group. No matter how well a private shelter is built, the space is limited after all. For a rich child who is used to living his free life, It is somewhat frustrating and sad that he cannot go out for racing and gatherings. 40 degrees. Suwoo felt a little moved in his heart. He raised his head and looked at a thermometer hanging outside the bedroom window. At this time, the real-time temperature was 42 degrees, which was twice higher than the rich second generation in the group said. It has broken through the local historical extreme value of Zhonghe City. And just yesterday, if Suwoo remembered correctly, the maximum temperature had just reached 34 degrees. Overnight, the climate changed from early summer to midsummer. Stand up and Suwoo opened the window. Flashes of heat hit my face. In an instant, the originally cool temperature inside rose several degrees. There is no longer a good time for humans to work for a long time. Carefully experience the changes in temperature. Suwoo's eyes passed through the courtyard downstairs and looked at the mountains in the distance. A faint flame was accompanied by the gray and white smoke rushing straight to the clouds. It was clearly reflected in his pupils. That was a sign of wildfire burning. A fire was about to sweep out. However, in normal times, forest firefighters are responsible for extinguishing wildfires. Now, the government is still unable to take care of itself in building shelters and resettling residents. Not to mention freeing up our energy to deal with the fire. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. It seems that there is an air raid shelter in that mountain. It seems that it was bought by a wealthy man in the hilltop. I don't know if I can survive this fire. Suwoo is very clear about this. It was because the resettlement location he wanted to choose at the beginning also included there. It's a pity that I don't have enough financial resources, and I came too late. Haven't competed with anyone else. And now it seems that fortunately, I didn't choose there. As the wildfires spread, hundreds of high temperatures and high heat, and the smoke and poisonous gas that could not be seen at a glance were all nightmares level difficulties for the shelter in it. If the preparation is a little insufficient, there are flaws in the ventilation and air purification system inside the shelter. Not necessarily able to survive this disaster. Retract your eyes. Suwoo looked at the courtyard, his own shelter exit passage. A miniature transport truck was loaded with gravel and soil, slowly sailing out from it. Even in this harsh high temperature, the engineering team controlled by primary artificial intelligence still maintains its original ultra-high efficiency. The underground space of the shelter is steadily expanded. Tonight at the latest, the second floor of the refuge is also going to be completed. Then take 2 more days to decorate. I can move in at any time. 2 floors underground. The total area is 650 square meters. The 50 square meters of space that is specially added to the first floor is mainly used to build power rooms and water storage rooms. The power room will be equipped with a new geothermal generator, which shares the same underground pipeline as the old geothermal generator on the ground. At the same time, sufficient space is reserved next to the geothermal generator, in order to allow 2 more geothermal generators to be installed when necessary. The water storage room is used to install a water pump and a water purification tank. The water pump is responsible for continuously pumping groundwater, and then filtering and purifying the water purification tank to supply it to the hydroponic farm on the first floor of the refuge and the living area on the second floor. As for the main area of the second floor, Suwoo divided it into a living area, a control center, a machinery manufacturing center, a daily necessity storage room and a water storage tower. The living area includes 3 bedrooms, an entertainment room, a living room, a dining room, a bathroom, and a kitchen. It belongs to Suwoo's main daily activities in the future. Chapter 13 Moving into the shelter. The reserved space is quite large. Basically benchmark against large flat floors or townhouses in the city. There are 3 bedrooms, one is the master bedroom, and the other 2 are reserved for other members who may join in the future. Humans or societies. When living in the downtown city, you may not notice it. But in the quiet refuge, that feeling of loneliness will only accumulate with the accumulation of time. Until it is heavier than Mount Tai. Therefore, even if you may take a certain risk, Suwoo will sooner or later accept some outsiders in the shelter. The entertainment room is a place where Suwoo relaxes, and the decorations inside are completely based on his hobbies. There are game consoles, high-performance computers, large-screen TVs, speakers, and treadmills. It meets a series of needs from playing games, watching movies, to running and fitness. If it weren't for the end of the world, the internet might be cut off. The equipment in the entertainment room has almost allowed Suwu to play with it for several years. There is nothing to say about other places such as living rooms and dining rooms. It is in line with their own positioning. Outside the living area, the control center is the central brain in the entire shelter. Suwu's upgraded high-energy battery pack is comparable to a laptop with a small supercomputer, and has a control terminal for monitoring systems throughout the shelter and farmyard. They will all be placed here. Just stay in the control center. Suwu can monitor all the surrounding environment at any time and accurately control all networked equipment in the engineering team and shelter. When there are enough survival points in the future, Suwu will further strengthen the defense level of the control center. Make it a refuge in a shelter, prevent it in case. Next to the control center, besides the living area, is the machinery manufacturing center. According to the plan, a small processing machine tool, a 3D printer, a full-time engineering robot and a rare material warehouse will be installed in the future. Make it have the ability to process most small mechanical equipment. For now, although Suwu can upgrade any desired mechanical equipment through the survival point. However, this kind of upgrade is like a manual construction, not only with high costs, but also with extremely limited output. A fully equipped machinery manufacturing center will not have these shortcomings. As long as you have design drawings and sufficient raw materials, you can continuously produce cheap finished products. At the edge away from the control center and the mechanical manufacturing center. It is a daily necessities storage room and water storage tower. The daily necessities storage room is responsible for storing all materials related to daily life, such as food, medicine, sugar, fertilizer, toilet paper, detergent, clothes and shoes, etc. It almost covers everything Suwu currently temporarily stored in a small building on the ground. The water storage tower is a large water tank that is responsible for storing and transferring the purified groundwater. It is also used as an emergency water source for prevention. If one day faces groundwater depletion and there is no water available on the ground, and there is a water storage tower, it can still maintain normal water use in the shelter for more than 1 month. The entire underground floor is too. It can basically solve most of the problems Suwu encountered when he lived in a shelter for a long time. After it is completed, it actually means that the main body of the shelter has been completed. The subsequent content is at most an expansion and improvement of the shelter, which is the icing on the cake. Retract your thoughts. Suwu closed the window. In just a short opening time, his forehead was covered with heat from the outside world, and a lot of sweat was poured out. June 11th. The main body of the second floor underground of the refuge has been renovated. The 2-story building in the yard includes Suwu's original bedroom. Almost all of the valuable things were transferred into it. Suwu himself also moved into the underground shelter with the transfer of his belongings. Sanctuary living area. A ball of white light stimulated by the survival point spreads on the ceiling above Suwu. The humid, hot and dull air in the room suddenly became refreshed. It makes people feel like being in the forest in the early morning of summer. This is the effect of the upgraded air circulation purification system and central air conditioner that begin to be put into operation. They can automatically monitor the air quality and temperature inside the shelter and keep it in the most appropriate state. In terms of ingredients, the air Suwu breathed at this time was actually exactly the same as in an unpolluted forest. Of course, if he wants. It can also be fine-tuned into ocean mode, garden mode, etc. This time, no mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. A total of 20 survival points were spent. It is the most expensive consumption since the survival system was obtained, besides upgrading the extreme drilling machine. Looking at the survival points I had accumulated over the past period of time, I almost suddenly dropped to the end. Suwu couldn't help feeling a little sad. It involves changing the overall structure of the shelter, even if it is just changing one of the branch systems. The consumption is also a level higher than the previous small fights, which is obviously 1 level higher. However, this kind of change is very necessary. Air circulation and central air conditioning seem inconspicuous, but in fact determine the quality of life and even the ability to survive in the shelter. For example, the wildfire that Suwu saw 2 days ago. If a shelter is located in a wildfire without a good air circulation purification system, the shelter will definitely be filled with poisonous gas. If there is no central air conditioner, or the central air conditioner is not modified in place and the heat dissipation equipment is placed outside the shelter, then there will be a negative state of ultra-high temperature inside the shelter. Two harsh conditions superimposed to form a closed furnace filled with toxic gas. Unless a miracle is born, the person in it will inevitably be unable to escape death. It took a few minutes to test the purification function and the temperature regulation function. After confirming that they are quite reliable, Suwu left the living area and entered the control center. The control center is a decorated sci-fi hall, mainly in silver-white tones. On the wall facing the door, 4 oversized screens hung, just covering the entire wall. These large screens have been powered on at this time and are all turned on successfully. The images captured by 96 surveillance cameras inside and outside the shelter are being displayed. At the same time, in front of the monitoring screen, the center of the hall, there is also an operating table with a milky white appearance and a simple and bright style. In the center is a 40-inch curved monitor, and below is a horizontal operation panel that looks like glass. It integrates many functional components such as keyboard, mouse, fingerprint verifier, scanner, emergency switch and so on. Suwu can connect to the upgraded laptop through this operating table. Control all electronic instruments in the shelter. Of course, because the facilities inside the shelter are not yet perfect now. There are very few places to operate. For the time being, there are more symbolic meanings than practicality. The manufacturing price of this operating table is 5 points of survival. Judging from the current situation of the shelter, it is a bit extravagant and wasteful. However, the advantage is that the configuration is directly full, so there is no need to update and replace it in the future. Chapter 14 Inspection. Sit down on the chair on the operating table. Suwu reached out and pressed the operation panel and turned on the computer through the fingerprint verification device. Suwu focused his attention and quickly found the corresponding logo of the engineering team in the picture. Then from their motion trajectories, this should be a thumbnail map showing the state of the shelter in real time. It's amazing. Suwu was a little amazed. Regardless of the implementation of its internal principles, it is simple or complex. Judging from this performance alone, it has directly filled the atmosphere of science fiction, bringing people a lot of visual enjoyment. Stroke your fingers slightly, reducing the shelter stereoscopic image to the right side of the screen. Open the control software and contact the medium-sized truck that is driving automatically in the city. A pair of street scenes captured through the car camera appear in the center of the screen. Compared with Suwu's last time he went out. At this time, the city area seemed even more desolate. Not only are there no shops on both sides open for business, but even the windows of the residential buildings are closed, and there is no trace of residents' activities. According to the electronic thermometer on board. At this time, the temperature on the street was stable at around 52.3 degrees. At this temperature, most ordinary civilian air conditioners can no longer operate normally. Even though some cooling capacity is still retained, the actual effect is minimal. For the average person, it should have been very painful now. Just thinking about it for a moment, Suwu couldn't help feeling a little pitiful for those people. Besides, even so, it is just the beginning. Strictly speaking, in Zhonghe City, the Doomsday has not really arrived yet. After a last look at the temperature, Suwu, who was determined not to step out of the shelter, disconnected the video connection with the medium-sized truck. Turned to check the condition of the surface. In the small farmyard on the surface, after the shelter was constructed in 2 layers in a row, about 800 tons of scrap iron were used in stock. In addition to the need to manufacture drilling machines, geothermal generators, vehicles, robots, etc., the yard that was originally stuffed with broken copper and iron has become much empty. According to normal circumstances, such exaggerated steel raw materials cannot be used to build shelters. But Suwu couldn't resist the lack of security in his heart, so he added more information on the original design. He added another thick layer of steel to the 1-meter-thick concrete exterior wall of the shelter. In this way, the sturdiness is solidity. Even if an unprecedented earthquake occurs, it will not shake the exterior walls of the shelter. But it also makes the consumption of steel much more than the original design. It seems that the batch of steel traded from the steel mill is far from enough. We have to find ways to find more steel materials. Su Wu was thinking. Momo added a new to-do item to his future plan. This is not difficult. Unlike food, steel raw materials have almost no requirements for storage environment. After the end of the world, a large number of abandoned houses and unattended vehicles were coming. There are also some small iron mines that are not suitable for conversion into shelters. All can be a good source of raw materials. The only question is just how to collect and transport them back. The site crossed the scrap iron and turned to the second largest number of used household appliances and rubber in the yard. These things, especially the circuit boards inside used household appliances. For Su Wu at present, the importance lies in steel. Various rare elements extracted from the circuit board are essential ingredients when upgrading all electronic devices in the shelter. Although there are no raw materials, you can also use the survival point to force upgrade. But the difference in price is enough for Su Wu to extinguish the relevant ideas after taking a look. The circuit board does not take up space. They can be removed first and put them as valuables in the machinery manufacturing center on the second floor of the shelter for safekeeping. Then store some copper, aluminum and rubber in. Thinking of the rare materials warehouse in the machinery manufacturing center, there are still many idle places. Su Wusheng thought about making use of it. It is unsafe to put important materials on the surface. Maybe one day a storm will disappear. If conditions permit, it is best to put it in the shelter and put it in. But disassembling the circuit board is not an easy task. It will take at least 7 or 8 hours of a construction robot. Su Wu currently has only 2 construction robots in his hands. One is involved in the construction of a shelter in the engineering team, and the other is transporting purchased steel on the vehicle. Nothing free. Add another construction robot. It is impossible to work by yourself. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. Look at the remaining survival points in your hands, and take into account the increasing labor demands of the shelter. Su Wu simply made a fuss and planned to consume the last 5 survival points. The engineering robot has been assigned a task to give priority to the manufacturing of a construction robot model. He continued to patrol the surface through surveillance. The rest is nothing good. Cement, sand and stone, and a 2-story building that is almost empty. They are all bulk items that are not valuable to ordinary people and are not easy to steal. There is no need to worry about supervision and storage issues for the time being. The center of gravity can be transferred to the inside of the shelter in the future. Take stock of your legacy assets on the ground. Su Wu felt a little lighter inexplicably. The vague sense of tension and crisis that had been pressing on my heart quietly disappeared without a trace. Instead, there is a kind of stability with reliance and protection. Now people and most of their important supplies have been moved to the shelter. Even if the Doomsday disaster strikes immediately outside, there will be no more safety concerns. He is truly transformed from an ordinary person who is in danger to a refugee master with the ability to resist risks. Switch monitoring to the inside of the shelter. It has been nearly 10 days since the first-story hydroponic farm was completed sowing and seedling cultivation. Among them, the fastest-growing part of the vegetables can already see obvious greenness. In a short time, a small-scale harvest can be carried out. Professional farm robots should also be put on the manufacturing agenda. Limited to the embarrassing survival point. The hydroponic farm has only undergone a simple upgrade when it is built. Only realize 3 basic functions: automatic monitoring and supplementation of nutrient solution, water circulation and light. It is barely guaranteed that the grown rice and vegetables and fruits can grow normally. As for more detailed things, such as adjusting light, temperature and nutritional ingredients according to the planting category, breeding, harvesting, maintenance, etc., there is nothing. And now, as vegetables gradually begin to mature in batches, the issue of upgrading again is no longer able to continue to delay. Take a secret note of this matter. Su Wu continued to switch to the second floor of the shelter to patrol. In addition to the living area and control center on the second floor, there are power rooms, water storage rooms, daily necessities warehouses and machinery manufacturing centers. Nothing else looks good. The machinery manufacturing center is basically an empty hall at this time. There is no planned lathe, 3D printer, and engineering robot. Another place that requires a lot of living points. Take it slow. At this time, Suwu is not in a hurry. You can't become fat in one breath. Wait patiently, and you will have what you should have sooner or later. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 15 Emergency Transfer. That night, the routine system refresh message appeared in Suwu's vision. Open black lens bracket. The living environment has undergone major changes. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Start reset evaluation parameters. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Update completed. Close black lens bracket. Current territory. Standard personal sanctuary 27%, fixed daily survival point +3. Close black lens bracket. Construct a standard personal shelter with a survival point +20. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Upgrade the shelter air circulation system, survival point +5. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Upgrade the shelter central air conditioner, survival point +3. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Current remaining survival points, 31. Close black lens bracket. It's actually updated. Suwu was surprised and turned his gaze to the column of the current territory. The biggest change after the update is that there is an additional hierarchy system for shelters. Among them, the two words, standard, and individual, belong to the rank. The percentage in the brackets followed by belongs to the experience bar progress. At the same time, the emergence of the shelter level system has tripled the daily fixed income. This changes quite a bit. The additional 2 survival points per day are enough to build a miniature diesel version excavator. A little accumulation can even double the size of the engineering team. The focus of the future. It should be about working hard to improve the level of shelter. I just don't know how the specific rules are calculated. With a contemplative gaze, staring at the shelter level on the panel, Suwu vaguely felt that he seemed to have grasped some hidden mechanisms of the system. Try digging and maybe you can get a lot of extra survival points. The next day, Suwu's good mood due to the surge in survival points was broken by a sudden emergency news. The real end of the world is coming early. Federal Government Order No. 1. All continents, provinces, cities, districts, counties, immediately stop all production and living activities on the surface and enter the shelter nearby to take refuge. Repeat, give up all tasks immediately and enter the shelter. In just a few hours. One more harsh mobilization warning, through television, radio, the internet, and all other channels that can be spread. Send to every corner of the world. Zhonghe City where Suwu is located. Originally, except for the official trucks, the city streets were almost empty. With the emergence of the mobilization order, it became extremely lively. People can no longer care about the high temperatures of more than 50 degrees outside. Under the official urging and the shrill alarm sounds echoing over the city, they drag their families to the shelter nearby. Even Suwu is located in the deserted farmyard. From time to time, you can see cars full of nearby villagers whizzing past the road and rushing to shelters in the city or mountains. It's so scary. 10 minutes, just 10 minutes. Except for some people who have been hiding in the shelter in advance. Everyone within a few hundred kilometers of the Great Rift Valley near Africa was dead. That's tens of millions of people. Zhonghe City Doomsday Survival Preparation Group. The reinstalled knight made a voice in his trembling voice. Several satellite photos of cities near the African Rift Valley were quickly posted. Obviously, I was frightened by the tragic situation above. Suwu clicked on the photo to check it out and found that the cities there were all surrounded by fire without exception. But strangely, there is no sign of anyone moving. It's like they're all empty cities. I heard about it, too. It is said that it was because of a sudden outbreak of craze. The temperature in that craze exceeded 200 degrees. It's just hell. The rich second-generation Mr. Zhuang was also scared. Immersed in a luxurious life, he realized for the first time that the distance between him and the doomsday might be the few dozen meters away from the shelter to the ground. The outside world is no longer the kind of sunny and beautiful appearance he knows. Based on what I found, that craze has not disappeared, and there is a high probability that it will appear on other continents within the next 24 hours. This is also the reason why the federal government suddenly issued an emergency notice. The end of the world is really coming. A member of the group named Yi Luoxuanghua and rarely speaks. The information found from the official came over. Between the lines, you can feel his heavy mood at this moment. Su Wu also fell silent when he saw it. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. He sighed and closed the group chat. I plan to observe the situation outside. Compared to the Great Rift Valley far away in the sky, Zhonghe City is more important. But, with last night, the last transportation mission ended. The medium-sized truck has now returned to the farmyard. It can no longer serve as a medium to provide external information. And now it is not suitable to drive it out. Not to mention safety issues, it is not in line with Su Wu's original intention to compete with those who flee at high temperatures for limited road traffic resources. But this could not defeat him. Consider it a little. Su Wu then stood up and took out several boxes containing drones from a cabinet in the bedroom. These are consumer-grade drones he bought from shopping malls earlier in coastal cities. The price is cheap and the camera clarity is okay. It's just right now. Use 3 survival points and modify them slightly to form a drone formation that can voyage far away. Su Wu returned to the control center and woke up the drone formation through the control center's operating table. Start match. The match was successful. Open automatic anti-collision protection. Keep the flight altitude of 1.5 meters and the speed is 0.5 meters per second. Staring at the real-time image that appears on the console screen. Su Wu carefully controlled 3 drones and took off indoors. Slowly drive towards the exit of the second floor of the basement of the refuge. The temperature outside is very high now. He was unwilling to run outside to carry the drone. It would rather be a little more troublesome like this and replace manual operations through remote operations. Fortunately, with the assistance of primary artificial intelligence, no accidents are likely to occur even in complex indoor environments. Half a minute later, the formation of 3 pairs of drones the size of a palm arrived at the exit location of the second floor of the underground. As the last isolation door slid open to both sides, the drone formation rode the spacious lifting platform, first arrived at the underground floor, and then flew out of the shelter along a diagonally upward passage. Once outside, the difficulty of operation immediately dropped sharply. Su Wu immediately let himself go, stretched the speed of the drone formation, and rushed straight to the sky. Soon, most of Zhonghe City came into his sight. There is a fire. View from high altitude. 2 or 3 buildings burning with raging fires first attracted Su Wu's attention. He enlarged the picture. Unexpectedly, no trace of the activities of fire trucks and firefighters was found. In such extreme heat, and there is also a critical period when a large number of ordinary people need to be transferred and sheltered, even urban fires have become less important. Or in other words, the official is already powerless about this. There is no way to take into account these details. Chapter 16 Military Control. It shouldn't spread. The situation around the fired buildings was slightly evaluated to confirm that they would not be expanded casually later. Su Wu stopped paying attention and turned his gaze to the street next to him. At this time, various vehicles were loaded with supplies and personnel, and lined up in a long line toward the entrances and exits of various refuges. Thanks to the official full scheduling. Although it seems a little panicked and hasty, the overall order is still there. The evacuation efficiency is quite high. But with more people, there will always be surprises. Just then, a riot suddenly broke out at a certain intersection. Su Wu adjusted the drone formation and left one communication transit drone in place, while the other 2 lowered their altitudes and were close to the pass to shoot. Near the intersection, several young and middle-aged men walked out of a van that was being touched with their upper bodies naked. He dragged out the driver and passengers of the vehicle that caused the accident with great momentum, not knowing what he was talking about. The street, which was not spacious, was blocked by them immediately. Seeing that it had been delayed for more than half a minute, the vehicles that were forced to stop were already lined up in a long line of 5 or 6 kilometers. A team of armed soldiers rushed over and shot and killed the troublemaker without asking the reason. Then he dragged the people and cars into the green belt next to the road. The roads are back to smooth again. It seems that it has actually entered the military control state. Stability and efficiency are above everything else. Su Wu looked thoughtful, and from this too straightforward and neat style of behavior, he guessed the attitudes of some senior executives in Zhonghe City. See the matter resolved. He continued to control the drone and patrol over Zhonghe City. Currently, Su Wu's 3 upgraded drones are formed. 2 of them are communication relay drones, which can temporarily act as signal transit stations to extend the signal transmission distance between drones. The other is a professional reconnaissance drone. It has the capability of high-definition camera and terrain radar scanning. The entire formation can reach up to 30 kilometers away from the shelter. The entire urban and suburbs of Zhonghe City have been basically included in the scope of monitoring. In an environment where the end of the world may face network interruptions at any time, they can be regarded as an indispensable reconnaissance tool. After walking around in circles, use artificial intelligence's powerful data analysis capabilities. Su Wu gradually gained a rough understanding of the situation in Zhonghe City. It took only half a day, plus the part that had been transferred in advance one after another. About half of the city's population of more than 2 million has been transferred to shelters. At the same time, the protective measures were not perfect during the transfer process. The accidental mortality rate has also soared many times more than usual. Many weak elderly people fell permanently on the transferred vehicles. In terms of materials, food, medicine, and other daily necessities have basically been transferred. The remaining large-scale non-essential materials were either sealed on-site or were still being transported to the shelter bit by bit. Judging from these official actions, they obviously believe that for a considerable period of time in the future, there is a high probability that industrial production may not be restored on the ground. This gave Su Wu a reminder from the side. In the future, activities on the surface need to be more cautious. It's late at night. The night covers the sky. The entire city evacuation operation still did not mean to stop at all. On the contrary, under the urging of the official, it accelerated a little intentionally or unintentionally. Su Wu, who had obtained the information, did not continue to observe. He took back the drone formation and began to continue to transform and upgrade the shelter as planned. No matter how the outside world changes, refuge is always the foundation of his life. Open black lens bracket 10 survival points have been consumed, upgraded to the hydroponic farm. Close black lens bracket. Semi-automatic hydroponic farm is advanced to fully automatic hydroponic farm. Close black lens bracket. Farm expected output plus 15%. Close black lens bracket. A new multifunctional farm management robot is added. Close black lens bracket. New functions of pollination, insect removal, harvesting, and low-temperature storage and preservation. Close black lens bracket. The fully automatic hydroponic farm has significantly improved the expected yield of all crops due to more refined nutrition and lighting management. At the same time, the emergence of farm management robots completely liberated Su Wu's hands. From then on, he didn't even need to step into the hydroponic farm half a step, and he could pass the control center to the robot to take charge of the entire process from seedling cultivation, growth, and harvesting. Su Wu himself only needs to decide on the types of agricultural products he planted and receive the output from the warehouse. A batch of vegetables will be harvested soon. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. There is no need to continue growing all vegetables in the vacant space. Maybe some flower varieties can be added a little. Looking at the hydroponic farm information counted on the screen. Considering the harsh environment on the surface in the future, it is likely that all animals and plants will no longer exist. Out of the mentality of preserving fire and improving the quality of life in the shelter, Su Wusheng had the idea of cultivating flowers. With fresh bouquets to dress up in a shelter, it can make people feel better. Not so depressing. After upgrading the hydroponic farm, the next step is the machinery manufacturing center. Su Wu has no good idea for the mechanical manufacturing center that currently has only one empty shell. You can only modify an engineering robot as a skeleton based on the survival point at hand. Take the rest slowly. Engineering robots are the most expensive equipment in Su Wu's hands, except for the extreme drilling machine. Before this, only one initially built engineering robot existed in the entire shelter. A rare quantity does not mean it is not important. Instead, it can even be said to be the origin and pillar of the shelter. The entire engineering team that built the shelter, and even almost all the mechanical equipment inside and outside the shelter, all are from the hands of engineering robots. With the existence of engineering robots in the mechanical manufacturing center, if efficiency is not considered, it means that it immediately has a complete set of mechanical processing capabilities. 16 survival points have been consumed, and a new engineering robot has been added. Close black lens bracket. Daily automatic maintenance of shelter equipment, improved repair capabilities, increased ability to respond to emergencies and risk resistance. Close black lens bracket. After a series of upgrades. On the system panel, the level experience of shelter was upgraded from the initial standard personal shelter, 27%, to the standard personal shelter, 76%. It's not far from the next stage. After squandering the survival point, Suwoo felt a little tired. He got up and took a shower in the living area, and then gradually fell asleep in the comfortable temperature created by the central air conditioner of the shelter. No matter how busy and turbulent the outside world is, in this underground shelter belonging to him, it is always quiet and peaceful. Chapter 17 High Temperature and Heat Dissipation System. The next day, the temperature outside continues to rise. By noon, it reached about 55 degrees. Through reconnaissance of the drone formation, Suwoo found that almost all wild plants and crops in the entire urban area of Zhonghe City and surrounding areas had withered and faced extinction. Large-scale reduction in surface grain production and even failure to obtain is a foregone conclusion. The outside environment is not optimistic. Fortunately, most of us have successfully hid in shelters, so there will be no major problems. In the big group of Doomsday chat, share the images taken by Suwoo, the drone. The desolate urban area and withered farmland inside resonated with waves of resonance. We are the same, we basically moved into the shelter. The requirements for the official shelter are very strict, and you are not allowed to bring too many things in. The place where you live is also a room of 8 people, which is narrower than the dormitory I had when I was in school. Now there is no entertainment except playing with your phone all day. This is the complaint of an ordinary person hiding into the official shelter. His personal safety is not a problem, but his quality of life suddenly fell to the bottom. All the assets that I had accumulated had to be abandoned in the house on the ground except for a few valuable items that I could carry with me. If Suwoo had not obtained the Doomsday survival system, it would probably be no different from his experience. I'm a little better than you, and I've been sneaked into a local small business shelter. There is a separate bedroom. As long as things can be stuffed, take them whatever you want. It's just that money is needed everywhere, and water and electricity are extremely expensive. The salary paid by the company is not enough, and it also needs to be bartered. I don't know how long I can last. The person who said this was an ordinary white-collar worker hiding into a shelter for small businesses. Through the few photos he posted, we can see that even in the shelter, he owns washing machines, refrigerators, TVs and other private home appliances. The quality of life is obviously one level higher than that of ordinary people in official shelters. However, the official shelter has some welfare nature, and no matter how poor the quality of life is, there will be a bottom line. However, corporate shelters do not have such concerns, and interests are preferred in everything. Not only is the cost of living higher, but it is not as good as the official one in terms of safety. Maybe if you encounter a team of thugs, you may be in danger of your life. Big boss, your drone is of great quality. I released 3 drones today, but all 3 of them broke down in the middle. They were completely lost. Compared to the complaints of ordinary people, many people are more interested in the photos sent by Suwoo. At this time, you can still grasp the first-hand information from outside. You don't have to think about it and know that he must be a rich man. Of course, it is not easy for those who dare to make connections. Even if you have a drone on hand, ordinary people do not have the authority to release it out of the shelter. All that can be done is at least a certain position in the shelter. You need a drone with better heat dissipation to get out. The last person's words caught Suwoo's attention. The high-temperature environment outside seems to have begun to affect electronic devices. He replied casually and turned to the 3-dimensional map of the shelter. Sure enough, I found that the engineering team that was digging the 3rd floor of the shelter had worn to varying degrees. Especially for miniature transport vehicles that need to go out frequently, some of the precision components inside have faintly shown signs of overheating failure. The high-temperature environment has a obviously negative impact on these automatic mechanical equipment. It seems that it is necessary to add a new cooling system to the engineering team's vehicles. And the ground thermal generator on the ground must also be transferred to the shelter. Otherwise, if the temperature is too high, it will sooner or later. Something happened. Quote. Trouble is coming. Suwu began to consider ways to deal with it. It is not difficult to install a new cooling system. Among the materials downloaded by primary artificial intelligence from the internet, there is a corresponding full set of design drawings. Throw it to the engineering robot and it will be done quickly. The difficulty is that the energy consumed by the new cooling system is quite huge. The batteries on the mini transporter need to be recharged soon after each use. If you want to solve this problem, the wireless charging capability of the high-energy battery pack can be utilized. Just add an additional power receiving device to each equipment in the engineering team for docking. After thinking hard for a while, Suwu found a solution. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. The wireless charging technology in this world is quite mature. Although there is no high-energy battery pack that has been upgraded with a radius of 100 meters, it is as exaggerated as wireless transmission. But the principles of both are basically the same. There is no problem when I take them over and use them only for making the power receiving device for the terminal. The hidden dangers of the engineering team were solved. Thinking that there are no other urgent things to do for the time being, Suwu began to enlarge the three-dimensional map of the shelter, intending to take advantage of his free time to check for omissions and fill in the gaps. A refuge with survival is its main purpose. The most basic needs are water, air and safety. In terms of water, the shelter has established a complete water supply process from water sources, filtration and purification, storage, and transmission. But water supply alone is not enough. It is also necessary to add corresponding drainage, sewage treatment, and water quality monitoring to form a complete water circulation system. This requires the establishment of an independent drainage pipeline and multiple subdivided sewage treatment tanks. It is used to strictly distinguish domestic sewage and industrial sewage that may be generated in the future, and laboratory sewage is targeted for filtration and purification. At the same time, from water supply to drainage, corresponding electronic equipment must be installed to regularly scan and test water quality. Avoid unknown viruses and radiation substances from the outside world, penetrate the filtration and purification system, and smuggle in. In terms of air, the shelter has installed an upgraded air purifier. There is no problem in theory. But the air purifier is, after all, a passive device installed in the shelter vent position. The reaction has a certain delay. If an unexpected situation occurs, such as the shell wall in a certain place in the shelter will be cracked, and toxic and radiation-resistant substances from the outside will pour in. Before the air purifier was processed, it was likely that it had caused irreparable huge losses to the shelter. At this time, a set of warning equipment that covers all corners of the shelter can monitor abnormal components in the air more sensitively and respond in a timely manner, such as early warning equipment that closes the surrounding channels of the air abnormality area to serve as the final insurance. As for safety, solve hidden dangers in water and air. The biggest threat left by shelter is fire. This is relatively simple. Whether it is fire source detection or automatic fire extinguishing. There are many mature solutions in the database downloaded from the internet. Suwu doesn't even need to spend extra survival points to upgrade. Chapter 18 Little Businessman. Suwu improved the detailed functions and early warning mechanism of the shelter one by one. Unconsciously, a design artwork of a complete body shelter that was almost completely isolated from the outside world appeared in his hands. With anticipation, the design artwork was transferred into the work list to be executed by primary artificial intelligence. Half a second later, Suwu received feedback that it would take a total of 1,227 hours to complete these tasks without affecting the process of expansion of the shelter. The long exceeded expectations. How come it takes so long? Suwu was a little silent by this unexpected backthorn. He opened the detailed report and found that the main reason was the lack of qualified circuit boards and detector components. In addition, the number of chips in stock is insufficient. A qualified circuit board can be picked and changed from the pile of scraps that are taken apart from used appliances. The time is not too much. The key is that some of the chips that are missing are very difficult to manufacture out of thin air. Suwoo felt a little tricky. Although engineering robots are almost universal in function, they are actually good at mechanical manufacturing, not electronic components manufacturing. When I encountered similar problems before, I usually used the survival point to force the upgrade. But that was a helpless move that could not be done. Now it is a bit too wasteful to just transform some less critical parts of the shelter and rely on the survival point to skip it. Besides, he can't find so many survival points for the time being. I can only find a way to buy it with someone else. There is no intention to waste the productivity of engineering robots on such meaningless low-end chips. Suwoo thought about it and turned to log into the internet. Purchase information was posted in Jonghae City's Doomsday small group and local forums. High batches of chips. This demand is a bit unpopular. There are few places to use in this environment now. Because the materials Suwoo chose to pay for were quite attractive, his purchase information quickly attracted the attention of many people. Many people began to inquire about whether they had the intention to trade other items. Suwoo talked to them casually for a while, but did not find anything urgently needed, so he politely refused. Now is not a good time to trade. After all, strictly speaking, the Doomsday has only just begun for a day or two. Not even considering the random extremely hot storm, looking at the high temperatures above 50 degrees on the surface, even a fatal disaster is not considered. Even ordinary people who are unprepared can grit their teeth and move for a short time on the ground. Most people have not actually adjusted to the mentality of entering the Doomsday. When it comes to transactions, we still hold on to the valuation system of the previous peaceful era. Time passes through busy communication. Until afternoon. A small businessman on a local forum in Jonghae City finally brought useful news to Suwoo. Do you have a batch of L3 chips for washing machines in your hand? How many are there? Suwoo was in spirit. Although it is just the level of use of washing machines, it is actually a rare medium and high-end chip among Suwoo's existing stock chips, and its scope of application is quite wide. It can be regarded as a hard currency that can effectively reduce construction time and survival point consumption. About 10,000. It's all the materials used by a small factory to deduct payments. All belong to new products that are not opened. The other party replied in detail. If the price is right, I can cover it all. What do you want to exchange? Suwoo pondered for a moment and asked tentatively. The unit price of the washing machine's chip is not expensive, and the normal market price before the end of the day was about 15 yuan. And now after the end of the world, because the market demand is extremely small, prices are basically unlikely to fluctuate. 10 kilograms of lettuce, sugar, chocolate, vitamin tablets, and some bleeding and pain-relieving medicines. In addition to lettuce, you can give the quantity of other things, but each type must be at least a little. The price can be based on the current market conditions. Double the conversion. The seller's offer is extremely low. The cost of fresh vegetables that occupy a large part of them is close to zero for Suwoo. Other things, although they are of great value in the Doomsday. But considering that the premium is twice as high, the number of transactions that really need to be taken out is negligible. The price is okay. How to trade? Knowing that he had taken advantage of it, Suwoo did not make any progress. It is very straightforward to move the transaction process to the next step. The chips are stored in a warehouse in the suburbs. I can't go out in the official shelter. Can you get them yourself? This time, the seller obviously hesitated for a few seconds before sending a reply. The lines were filled with a cautious smell, as if they were afraid that Suwoo would refuse. Do you have to deliver goods to you later? Please trouble you. No mistakes, 1 song, 1 content, 1 in 6, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 reading. If the shipping fee is not enough, there are some hardware tools and metal sheets in that warehouse, which you can take away as compensation. After a few simple conversations, Suwoo raised his eyebrows and did not continue to make things difficult for the other party. This kind of thing was long as he expected. In the current environment, it is difficult for most people to even get out of the door of the shelter, let alone conduct long-distance transactions across shelter. In the end, it is inevitable that Su-Wu will go there himself and act as a courier. Once again, my eyes scanned the seller's list of needs. The image of an ordinary person who was rushed into an official shelter and had no connections or status emerged. That's it. I'll send what you want to the door of the official shelter. The exchange ended and saved the address and unlocked password obtained from the seller. Su-Wu stood up and walked to the cabinet placed in the corner of the wall, and took out a hand crossbow with a dark luster. This metal crossbow with fatal lethality is the only weapon in his hand. Now that you are going out, you must bring it with you. However, just that, it is still not insurance enough. Su-Wu stood there and thought for a moment. Turn around and pass the console and issue a recall order to a construction robot that is being constructed on the third floor of the underground. A few minutes later, the recalled construction robot came to the door of the control center. Bring your hand crossbow and this crossbow arrow, go to the ground truck cab and wait for orders. He handed the crossbow to the humanoid robot in front of him. Su-Wu watched it turn and leave, disappearing at the corner of the corridor. He closed the door himself and continued to sit back to the console. No one stipulates that you must go out in real people. A medium-sized truck that can be driven automatically, a construction robot that can replace most of the labor, plus a set of communication and monitoring equipment that can command and communicate remotely in real time. It is completely enough to perform foreign trading tasks. Of course, there are also disadvantages. One is that the reaction is not as flexible as the real person. Another one is that there are only 3 construction robots in the entire shelter. Almost all work 24 hours a day without sleep. Taking up one will delay some of the construction tasks accordingly. When the renovation of the second floor of the refuge comes to an end, you can accumulate some survival points. Maybe it's time to consider adding another construction robot. Su-Wu thought to himself. The cost of a construction robot only requires 5 survival points. In addition to carrying out construction and outing missions, it can also act as a security officer to increase the safety of the shelter. No matter how you look at it, it's quite cost-effective. Just as Su-Wu was thinking, the construction robot arrived at the ground and entered the cab of the medium-sized truck staying in the yard. Su-Wu sat upright and remotely connected data to the medium-sized truck through the console. Chapter 19 Remote Control Adventure. Half a second later. On the super large screen of the console, lines of characters and a clear picture popped up. That is the real-time situation of a medium-sized truck, as well as the video taken by the camera located at the front of the vehicle. The cab temperature is 62 degrees and the outdoor temperature is 55 degrees. After glanced at the data on the screen, Su-Wu couldn't help but feel a little lucky and scared. In this kind of high temperature, if he wants to pass by himself, he will probably not have to have heatstroke on the spot. It is more wise to operate remotely. Wake up the driving system and start the engine. The medium-sized truck drove out of the farmyard silently and set out onto the highway. Along with it, there were 3 drone reconnaissance formations in the sky. The field of view provided by medium-sized trucks alone is quite limited. If the high-altitude vision of the drone is supplemented, you can better plan the route and avoid danger in advance. This time, although Su-Wu did not go out in person, the medium-sized trucks and construction robots themselves are huge assets that cannot be ignored. It is better to be careful, of course, be careful. Along the way, there were no surprises. It was as quiet as if it was sailing on the wasteland of Doomsday. As far as you can see, there are withered vegetation and gravel beaches that reflect the scorching sun. It is not until I enter the urban area that I occasionally encounter some transport vehicles. But the number is not large. Time has come to an end, and the official evacuation operation has come to an end. Most of the people in the city have moved into the shelter at this time. End. Su-Wu silently observed the depressed streets on the screen. From that unstoppable desolation, I felt the influence of the Doomsday intuitively for the first time. He couldn't help but start to think about it. Compared with the official shelter facilities, is his own shelter built only 10 meters deep underground, able to resist the natural disasters caused by extreme heat in the future. The outer layer of the shelter is 1 meter thick concrete, and the middle of the concrete is also decorated with thin iron plates of 2 millimeters thick. The temperature insulation effect should be higher than that of ordinary basements and underground parking lots. In addition, the ventilation system and central air conditioning have been strengthened by the survival point. The quality should still be above most official shelters. Plus, if the seal is done well enough, it may not be a big problem to temporarily withstand surface temperatures from 200 to 500 degrees. The conclusion gave Suwoo a little comfort. No matter what, at least his safety is basically fine. And considering that the shelter is still digging down, it continues to expand its scale and depth. Even if something happens when the time comes, it will be impossible to continue evacuating deeper. In terms of growth and fault tolerance, his refuge is no worse than the smallest official shelter. More than 20 minutes later, the medium-sized truck passed through the city and entered a small path near a village in the suburbs. Finally, I stopped in front of a two-story house. The construction robot sitting in the driver's seat opened the car door, held the crossbow with the arrow installed in one hand, and walked down. No signs of life were found. Switch to the perspective of the building robot. Suwoo directed it to walk around the house and then walked towards the main entrance after confirming that there was no danger. Unlike the ordinary appearance of a private house, the locks on the main door use an unusual electronic password lock. However, perhaps due to the abnormal high temperature, the password lock's reaction was a bit slow. Suwoo tried several times by manipulating the construction robot, but failed to unlock it successfully. What a broken thing. Suwoo, who was a little irritable, was about to return to the car and come over with a hammer and smash it open. With a click, the electronic password lock finally opened slowly after Suwoo entered the password for the last time. Push the door and go in. The interior was empty, with only a pile of messy hardware tools piled up along the corners of the wall. Not here, go upstairs and take a look. Suwoo muttered, calmed down and patiently directed the construction robot, and walked up the second floor along the stairs without guardrails. Finally, in a bedroom, I found a whole box of neatly packed chips wrapped in plastic film. It should be this one, it looks pretty well preserved. After successfully finding the target, Suwoo's mood became a little better. He looked around and was about to let the construction robot move the chips down. Suddenly I noticed a photo frame placed on the head of the bed. In the frame, an extremely beautiful little girl snuggled up to a middle-aged man, looking at the camera with a little shy smile. In the pure eyes, happiness and expectations for the future are filled with this. Maybe the little girl's smile was too stunning. Suwoo hesitated for a moment and asked the robot to take away the photo frame. Intuition tells him that this photo may be very important to some people. Get the chip. Before leaving, Suwoo did not forget to carry all the hardware and tools and materials on the first floor into the car. These things are his home delivery errands fee, so you can't miss it. Half an hour later, the medium-sized truck returned to the farmyard. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. After receiving the goods, Suwoo put the 10 kilograms of lettuce and other fragments on the car. Lettuce breaks quickly at high temperatures. In order to ensure a certain freshness, Suwoo chose this troublesome special delivery method instead of putting it in the car early and then delivering it to the seller when he gets the chip back. Anyway, for him, this is just a waste of endless electricity. It's not himself who actually drives and delivers goods. There are no other tasks, and the simple delivery speed is very fast. It started to calculate from loading the car, just 15 minutes later. The construction robot riding in a medium-sized truck has arrived at the door of the seller's shelter. Thanks. I'm really troubled you. The seller who ran out of the door of the shelter was a thin middle-aged man. He was surprised that the robot he was handing over to. But more of it is the joy and gratitude of receiving the goods. Before this, he was not sure whether Suwoo would fulfill the agreement truthfully. He is even ready to be cheated. The money and goods have been cleared. Suwoo glanced at him, controlled the robot and waved his hand, and jumped onto the truck again. He set out on the way back in a straightforward way. Watching Suwoo's medium-sized truck leave, the middle-aged man wiped the sweat from his forehead and did not dare to stay outside for a long time. Carrying a bag of lettuce and other small things, he ran into the shelter. Someone really delivers you. The official staff guarding the exit of the shelter looked at the middle-aged man who came back in surprise, amazed. When going out at this time, you are not just about harsh heat. You will also face extremely hot storms that may occur at any time. It is the real risk of taking life. Most people don't have this courage. Good luck, I met a good buyer. The middle-aged man smiled honestly, but the one who didn't mention delivering the goods to him was a robot. By the way, this is the agreed hard work fee. Please trouble you. Take out a few lettuce from the bag, and the middle-aged man gave it to the other party with some congratulations. Although in terms of time, most people have just entered the shelter for a day or two. However, the failure of ground crops and the impact of ordinary people losing planting tools have already begun to affect everyone. In this case, fresh vegetables with a little green are somewhat considered a luxury. Even for those working in the government, it is a gift that is sincere enough. Chapter 20 The World's Fire. Okay, I remember you, Wang Xining, right? You can find me again if you need it next time. Officials smiled. The middle-aged man smiled and lowered his head, carefully carrying the rest of the things, and returned to his six-person dormitory. At this time, everyone else in the dormitory was still working outside, which reduced him a lot of trouble. Place lettuce, sugar, chocolate, medicine, etc. on the table. Wang Xining found that there seemed to be another photo frame in the bag that was not within the transaction scope. He picked up the photo frame, and the photo of the little girl with a faint smile inside reflected in his eyes. That was his daughter. Thanks. Wang Xining's eyes were a little red, and he whispered a thank you that he was destined to be heard. His fingers gently brushed across the frame and then fell on the lettuce leaves that still had water droplets on the table. These only supplies he currently has will become his capital to start his career and tickets to reunite with his daughter in the future. On the other side, after Su Wu reached the deal, he no longer paid attention to the returned medium-sized trucks. Among the hardware materials he used as a trading giveaway, he found some unanticipated components. These things can be combined with the chips you just obtained to perfectly fill some of the missing materials during the current shelter transformation process. The original working hours of more than 1,200 hours were shortened to less than 20 hours at once. What a good person. Looking back at the photo she handed over, Su Wu was full of affection for the middle-aged man who had such a beautiful daughter. If you decide if you have a chance in the future, you can help him according to the situation. Next. There is nothing to say about the process of renovation and upgrading of the shelter. Just like a game, Su Wu was brushing the forum news and sleeping, he automatically walked to the end without realizing it. At the same time, with the progress of the transformation, the experience bars behind the shelter level on Su Wu's system panel also quietly began to rise rapidly, from 76% to 100%. Then promoted to a livable personal shelter, 0%. This time the upgrade. The fixed daily survival point income quota was not increased, but during the settlement period that night, Su Wu brought an additional reward of 50 survival points. Let the savings in his pocket become rich again. June 14th. The average surface temperature rose to 57 degrees. On this day, Su Wu did not go out. I spent all day in forums and chat groups, and chatted casually. Although it seems a little unemployed, it also makes him more familiar with the outside world. At the same time, he became familiar with a girl named Chen Xin. This girl is either someone else, or the one who once asked for help in the Doomsday group and was prompted by Su Wu for a few words. She listened to Su Wu's advice. I really learned from the coast to the inland area. And coincidentally, the transfer location was also in Zhonghe City. June 17th. The surface temperature reaches 60 degrees. Except for the North and South poles, raging fires began to burn around the world. A large amount of toxic smoke penetrated the sky and turned into thick clouds. Some areas near the most prosperous forest fires, the sky became even red like fire. Suburbs of Zhonghe City. Near Su Wu's farmhouse courtyard. It was approaching noon, but the sky was gray and dull. Even with the high beam on, you can't see clearly the scenery 100 meters away. No exception. This fire that spreads the world also burned into the mountains near the farmyard. Unlike the small forest fire that happened more than a week ago, this time the fire covered everything in the entire mountainous area and swallowed up everything that could burn. And there is also a faint trend of spreading towards the city. The situation is grim. Su Wu stayed in the control center on the second floor of the underground of the shelter, remotely operating the camera installed on the roof of the second floor of the farmyard. Observe the situation outside. From the picture taken by the camera, you can see that the mountains behind the gravel beach have been completely submerged by the orange-red sea of fire. Its scale is so large that even with rich smoke covering it, it is still shocking. That feeling was like a primitive man riding a wooden sailboat, facing the vast ocean and the fierce storm for the first time. In the face of the power of heaven and earth, Suwu had no doubt that even if he threw the aircraft carrier in, he would be easily burned through. The terrifying fire continued to burn for more than 10 hours. No mistakes, one song, one content, 1 in 6, one book, one bar, one reading. From daytime to night, then from night to dawn. However, the situation not only did not improve, but became increasingly serious. The clouds accumulated in the sky are getting heavier and heavier. The strong wind that blew from nowhere swept the burning dead branches and leaves into the sky, and then fell to the distant villages and factories. Then, swaying Mars will fall from time to time in the city. Eventually, the fire inevitably appeared in the city. First, it is 1 or 2 points, then the fire point connects to a line of fire, and then expands into a zone. In less than half a day, the entire city was in the oven of flames. Warning: toxic gases were detected. Start to close all external hatch doors and start a higher power purification system. Because of the existence of gravel beaches, the farmyard above Suwu Sanctuary was lucky enough not to be affected by the fires in the mountains and cities. But it is still inevitable that the poisonous fog that comes with the wind and the ashes falling from the sky. The excessive concentration of toxic substances in the air once put the purification device of the shelter vent in an extreme operating state. This frequently triggers monitoring warnings from the control center. Suwu sat in the control center, feeling the cool breeze blowing from the central air conditioner. The flow rate became faintly faster than usual, and a little nervousness arose in his heart. He knew that the changes in central air conditioning came from the pressure of the external environment. At this moment, the surface outside the shelter is completely unsuitable for human survival. The only thing he could rely on was this small space inside the shelter. I waited for several hours with my breath and concentration. As the toxic dust from outside gradually settles on the ground, the air gradually returns to normal. The shelter's high-intensity purification device returns to normal state. Suwu's tense nerves finally relaxed. He poured a glass of ice water hard to calm down his terror. Then, the engineering team that was shut down and on standby continued to start the excavation work on the 3rd floor of the underground. He himself once again went online to collect information. This time, Suwu realized that during the few hours he was in danger, others were not having a good time. First of all, there was a large-scale network breakdown. More than 3/5 of the world have been disconnected from the internet. Specifically for Zhonghe City, almost all shelters located in the city are in a state of loss of contact. Only a small number of people located in remote suburbs are still active on the internet. And even if they are active, it does not mean how good the situation in reality is. People who have a suburban shelter in Zhonghe City were lucky enough to survive because they had oxygen generators and enough oxygen tanks. And except him, there were no other living people in the shelter where he was. Hundreds of people died of suffocation and poisonous gas. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.